start recording.
Woo.
Now, what does the stream actually look like? It's squashing us.
Oh no. Are we gonna be squashed
Yeah.
forever?
No. Start recording. Alright. Refresh. What does it look like now?
It looks like it won't load for me. I'm just seeing the little loading wheel.
Oh, okay. Yes, it worked.
Oh, it worked. I can see my face again.
But we are fuzzy now.
Well, you're always a little fuzzy. Because, you know, you're...
Yeah. Alright, we will go to 4,000 bitrate instead of 2,000. Apply. Okay. Alright, now we are clear.
Woohoo!
See, it works, doesn't it? It looks good.
Does. It looks, that's perfect. Woo!
Alright.
What a relief. Sorry, everybody. There's still people waiting in the chat that were like here the whole time.
Yeah,
So
on my
sorry,
end,
friends.
I just see Waluigi. Well, how do you see Walu? How did you know to say Waluigi if you didn't see us? Because you had to see us to know we asked you, unless you're just getting audio.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
That's
but
possible.
yeah. Just everybody click refresh. We will wait 10 seconds and then we will start the end of the podcast where we answer your questions. So get your questions ready too. And then of course you have the intro of the podcast that we have to go through. So we're not the podcast, but you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It looks good though. I'm surprised it looked like I was able to do it. I was worried at first when we were like squished together, but
Yeah. No, it's worked out.
yeah.
Ew. I didn't see the squished faces, but
It
I
looked,
missed that.
yeah. It was fun for a second, and then it got scary. All right, are you ready?
I sure am.
All right, I can close out all this Skype nonsense.
All that messy stuff.
Get the, where is it? The list of questions. Go to the bottom.
Well,
All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. What's up, everybody? I am Jesse, or as you all may know me as Game Over Jesse. Here with me on the Zelda mailbag is our co-host, Daniel. Go ahead and introduce yourself for the Zelda mailbag, Daniel.
I am Daniel, also known as Burgerson, or King Burgerson, or Capt Burgerson, or any variation of the sort. Yes, mostly I just lately, at least, mostly just co-host this little podcasty thing. And it's fun. That's me. Also.
Alright, well, this is the Zelda mailbag segment for the Hylian's Gamescast, our podcast where we talk about Zelda and Nintendo news. I believe this is episode 26 for April 16th. So if you have any questions you would like to have featured or answered on the show, please go to patreon.com/GameOverJesse, where you can submit your questions, as well as receive a lot of other cool prizes or rewards, however you want to call them. They're not really rewards since you're kind of paying for them, but that's how Patreon works. We get sent so many questions on YouTube, on Twitter, on Discord, that we can't quite answer every single question. So if you want your question guaranteed to be on the show, like the one or Ashley or any of our other amazing Patreon supporters, patreon.com/GameOverJesse guarantees it. So, Daniel, starting us off, what is our first question for this mailbag?
Okay. The question comes from Hua. I don't know if that's how it's pronounced. WHOA asks, least favorite Zelda character.
Whoa. Maybe? Whoa?
What?
Is that
Whoa! Oh, maybe
maybe?
it is whoa. I always thought whoa had the H at the end.
Yeah.
We're gonna go with whoa.
Yeah. What?
Yes. What?
It's perfect because we're using
That's
the
it.
Waluigi thing, so it's what?
Wah!
All right, what does he ask?
Your least favorite Zelda character.
Oh gosh, least.
Favorite. Mm-hmm. Now we always joke about hating Tingle, but he's definitely not my least favorite character.
So many people were disappointed that Tingle was not in Breath of the Wild.
But his costume is. You can be Tingle.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Worst Zelda character, or least favorite.
Least favorite. Just trying to think of someone that's like annoying, like in a game-breaking sense, like disruptive to the flow of the game.
Yeah,
you know?
because I was thinking like the Mailman and Twilight Princess, but
yeah,
going to Hyrule Field would feel so much less, if that makes sense, if he wasn't there.
Yeah.
The little kid that follows you that has the boogers in his nose in Wind Waker.
Oh, that's it. It's him. He's the worst
But like
character.
when I think of Wind Waker, like memorable characters, I think of him. So I'm trying to think of like a guard that won't let you into a place. That's like, just let me in. I can walk past you. Just let me by. Like the ones in the courtyard for the Hyrule Castle.
I don't know, man. The Booger kid is pretty terrible.
The guy that always... I think there's someone in Wind Waker next to the Booger kid. Like around where the pigs are. Like there's a character that will run up to you and it automatically initiates a conversation.
Yes, no, that's on Windfall Island, and it's the like old guy.
Yeah, instead of you having
rich.
instead of you having to talk to him, he just interrupts the gameplay. So that is who I pick.
That's a good one. Yeah, that is super annoying because it's the he starts out as the hobo guy, he becomes the rich guy after you complete the Forsaken Fortress the second time. And yeah, before he becomes the rich guy, while he's still out on the street, there'll be the little ding, he'll notice you.
Yeah.
And he'll run up, and it's just like I just like avoid him at all costs.
Him or Waluigi, or Evil Luigi, in Ocarina of Time, the evil farmer brother. Yeah, the one that's like the character design's based off Luigi.
Yeah.
Ingo. I hate him because he's the only character outside of Ganon or the Gerudo that is evil.
Yeah, I would say so. Or there's the Gorman brothers in Majora's Mask are both really annoying.
Yeah.
You have to like race them and they cheat the whole time.
Yeah.
And they're just obnoxious and they go Wah! Like Ingo, which is just an
like Waluigi.
Yeah, exactly. It makes the same sound.
Yeah, alright.
And it's just that's bad.
So any of the versions of Ingo or the guy that keeps interrupting you?
Or the Booger kid.
Or the Booger kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, someone says the beavers in Majora's Mask. I don't think they're annoying.
I didn't find them that annoying personally, but that was me.
Alright, this is my favorite one. Or at least that I can see at the moment. Superlink364 from YouTube asks, my question is, would you like to see a new game in which we go back to Termina? Perhaps the game would go more into the lore of fierce deity and the four giants. I say yes. I would. Before Breath of the Wild came out, I wanted a sequel to Twilight Princess, because both Twilight Princess, Ocarina of Time end similarly with your side companion going away, disappearing. In my head, I would think Twilight Princess Link would end up doing the same thing. I need to find a way to get my friend back, which is what Ocarina of Time Link did with Navi to go on his quest to Majora's Mask. So Link, knowing about this other world, this other dimension, the Twilight Realm, tries to find a way to go to another dimension. But instead of going to the Twilight Realm, he ends up in Termina. So then we get to see Termina a few hundred years after Majora's Mask. And then maybe the people there, in a similar way to an Ocarina of Time, when you're an adult, everyone, well, not everyone, but some of the characters are like, hey, you remind me of that kid 7 years ago or whatever. So maybe you go to Termina and there's suddenly a legend there of a young boy in green that helped save like everyone's problems or whatever. So you could go there and maybe there's like an old woman who talks about a story she was told about a young boy saving her grandparents' wedding or something like that. And then, like, maybe it doesn't necessarily say it, but the people that played Majora's Mask can be like, oh, this is the granddaughter or the great-great-granddaughter of Cafe and Anju. Mm-hmm. So, like, something like that would be really cool. Like, if that happened in a game, wouldn't you, like, instantly be like, oh my god, that's this person?
Yeah. Oh, I'd geek out, like, crazy.
Like, just a small thing like that. Like, oh, a boy looked just like you saved my grandparents' wedding. Like, a line that simple would just...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm all over references like that. I would totally nerd out and be like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to go back to Termina because we see so many iterations of Hyrule. My first thought was, well, if we went back to Termina, it'd be boring because we've already seen that. But we see so many iterations of Hyrule anyways. So as long as they had the landmarks line up enough that it's recognizable as Termina, but change enough that it's still interesting, you know, which like, we already know Nintendo would probably do.
In Twilight Princess, we've seen Hyrule on a scale much larger than Ocarina of Time. It's the same place, but because it's a newer console, you can get a bigger world. So if you scale Hyrule from Ocarina of Time to what it is in Twilight Princess, if you scaled it the same way in Majora's Mask, maybe add in, instead of just having the north, the south, the east, and the west, maybe you can add in like an area to the northeast and it, like the diagonal directions.
Yeah, you know, just like what's in between these areas, you know?
Yeah, instead of it going like just from like snow to a beach. Like maybe have some in between where there's like a forest that kind of buffers it.
Yeah.
Cause like that always made me curious. Like you look at it and then even in Breath of the Wild, it's like this mountain is super covered in snow, but 5 feet away there's no snow to be seen.
Yeah. Yeah, that was kind of one of the jarring things about so I feel conflicted on Majora's Mask's overworld because in Termina Field, everything is so close together that it makes no sense, really, that there's this big snowy region, and then it's like the beach right next to it.
Yeah.
Like 10 feet away.
There's no buffer area.
Yeah, so like...
I like your shirt, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, the heather blue V-neck.
It's very blue. I'm wearing like all blue today, except for my my Metroid socks. So... but,
nice.
From a gameplay standpoint, though, I really like that it's very concise. Like, it's a very, like, tightly knit overworld, so there's no, like, areas that's going in between where it's just, like, there's nothing to do in those areas.
Yeah.
But because it was so tightly knit, there's also not very much point to having Epona other than jumping the fences to get into Great Bay. Other than that, there's no real reason to have her, because you can just Goron roll everywhere faster without calling her. And, you can get everywhere very quickly anyways because there's so little space to travel. So I don't know, like, I feel like part of the charm would be lost by scaling the world up, but I also feel like there's a lot more possibilities that they could put into the world if they scaled it up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a bit conflicting for me because of that. But I would like to, you know, see what else Termina has to offer. You know, we can go back to A Link to the Past's Hyrule. We can see so many different ways that Hyrule has changed over the generations of the games. But we've only been to Termina the one time, and it's like one of the most interesting locales in the lore in the franchise, right? So they would have to really nail it to live up to Majora's Mask with the depth of the world in Majora's Mask, you know. So yeah,
there is a lot they would have to do. All right, take us to our next question, Mr. Daniel.
Okay.
Ferguson.
Mr. Me.
Mr. Burgers.
Carol Bit asks, what is your favorite Goron?
Oh,
From what game and why? I love my Gorons. So.
I love the way they looked in Ocarina of Time, which they kind of redid in Skyward Sword.
Yep.
I can't think how they looked in Breath of the Wild.
Pretty similar
Yeah,
to Ocarina of Time.
they looked similar, but they had their own unique characteristics. So yeah, I like that, the Breath of the Wild, Ocarina of Time style, because when you look at them, they do look very similar to the way they looked in those games. But if you look at Twilight Princess, like some of the designs in the Hyrule Historia has like volcanoes on their backs and stuff like that. Like it got too fantasy like. So I'm not a fan of those because you look at them and they look weird, and then you look at the old Goron in the Fire Temple.
Yeah.
The
He has,
I think
the
he
volcano guys
yeah.
on his back and stuff. Yeah.
He always looked really weird. And then there was one that looked like him in Majora's Mask as well.
Yeah.
Or like the old Goron. So
Yeah.
not a fan of
Really
those.
punched over. Yeah, I liked I think he's seen this like a specific Goron character. I think is what Carol's asking. Your favorite Goron?
Oh.
If you had to pick one specific character.
Well, like I guess I would default to Darunia, because
Darunia, yeah.
he looks unique. Like you can look at Darunia, and he looks different enough from the other Gorons who all look the same. So he looks unique from the normal Goron, but not in a way that just looks off-putting like the ones in Twilight Princess. So, like Darunia.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of the ones in Twilight Princess looked bad either. It's just some of them looked too weird.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm gonna go with as far as like the Goron designs overall go, like you were saying, I think Breath of the Wild probably was the best because it took sort of those classic designs, but expanded on it by like having them, like you said, have different characteristics, but still faithful to the design. I remember at the time that Twilight Princess first came out, I really liked how the Gorons looked because I thought they looked really cool, but they also didn't look they looked very tribal and not very like Goron like.
The normal Gorons, the ones that would like kind of attack you while you're trying to make your way up Death Mountain, they looked fine because they looked similar, but it's like the ones that just look weird I don't like.
But they definitely look more threatening and imposing in Twilight Princess than in like Ocarina of Time. Whereas they look kind of like gentle giant sort of people.
Yeah, like they're made out of rocks, but they still kind of look soft to touch.
Yeah.
Whereas in Twilight Princess, they're just like rock hard.
Yeah. And I didn't like the Goron nipples in Twilight Princess. They put a lot of emphasis on that in the design. I don't know why. I gotta say, probably my favorite Goron character is probably Daruk. I am all about Daruk. I don't know what it is. He's like that friendly, gentle giant, but he's like super tough. But he's also like your dad friend, you know?
All right.
I don't know.
Next question comes from our good friend who has been on the podcast a few times, Miss Click Gaming. Yeah, he highlighted it right there. She asks from Twitch, why have we not seen the spirit of the hero represented as a female? Now, before everyone starts going crazy saying playing as a female would ruin Zelda games, we don't want to play as Linkle, we don't want to play as Zelda, we don't want to play as whoever, Aonuma is 100%, like the guy in charge of Zelda has said in interviews, he is 100% fine. Like, he wants to make a Zelda game with a female hero. It went so far that when they were working on Zelda Wii U, he was talking with Miyamoto about it. And if Miyamoto would have said yes, Breath of the Wild would have you playing as a female. But Miyamoto said no, so they just kept the standard Link. And that is actually why, like, that's what caused all of the joking about Link in Zelda Wii U during the trailer. everyone was like, why does Link look so weird? And then Aonuma was like, well, I never specifically said that was Link. And then he kind of joked around about it being a girl. In interviews that came out later, he said that the reason he was joking around about it and stuff was because at the time, or sometime before that, he was talking to Miyamoto about you being a girl. So people saying it'll never happen, it shouldn't happen, the person who is in charge of the Zelda series wants it to happen. Mm-hmm. So chances are, since he does want it and he is in charge of it, it will likely happen within the next few games. Like, maybe that's why Triforce Heroes let you dress up like a princess. Breath of the Wild, they said they purposefully made Link look more feminine. So, yeah. But they said that way, like, if you're a male, you can see yourself represented in Link, and if you're a female, then you could still see yourself represented. To where if they made him look really like a masculine Link, then a girl playing may not be able to see themselves as Link. So within the next few years, maybe not the next few years, within the next 10 years, I imagine there is a Zelda game that at least lets you choose to play as a female. Why it hasn't happened yet, Miyamoto told Aonuma no. Aonuma wanted to do it. The guy who's been in charge of Zelda since Majora's Mask, who was the producer on Ocarina of Time, and then he created Majora's Mask and has been in charge of all of the Zelda games since. He wants it to happen. So the people that are hating, there you go.
It's only a matter of time, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With them like purposefully making Link look more feminine, that way he can relate to the girls. There's the interviews where Aonuma and Miyamoto said they were a fan of Linkle's design, even though it wasn't an original Nintendo creation. So that's all of the factual stuff that I can think of. But in-game lore, would you like to answer that one? Like, why hasn't Link been a female? Like, we have Errol. Like, what would have happened if...
Why not?
if, like, the bird in Wind Waker would have kidnapped Link instead of Errol?
Yeah.
Then it would be Errol setting out to save Link.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
Though I think she's a little... Like, if they made her not quite as young, I think that would work better, but that's not really the gender thing. It's more the age thing for me. I don't know. There's no real reason to not. There's no reason that they have or haven't. I don't think... Yeah. Lore-wise, I want to say it's probably because Skyward Sword Link being the first Link happens to be male, and then
like
just chronologically carried forward that way.
If you look at other popular Nintendo games, like every single Pokemon game literally starts with "Are you a boy or girl?"
Yeah.
So like,
that's true. So,
I've always made the example. The perfect way they could do it is like if you imagine Wind Waker. Most Zelda games have you waking up. From like Ocarina of Time, he wakes up from a nightmare. Breath of the Wild, he wakes up. Skyward Sword, the bird pushes his head through the window, and then Link wakes up. Twilight Princess, he wakes up from what's his name? Darren?
Russell?
Yeah, Russell. I was thinking of your name. I don't know why, but Russell wakes Link up. It's very similar to what happens in Ocarina of Time with your friend running up and yelling your name.
Oh, no, wait. It's Beto, isn't it? The farm guy, not Russell.
Oh. I was thinking Russell because he's the one that, like, you have that opening monologue from Russell.
You have that with him, and then Beto wakes you up to go help on the old farm.
Yeah, so...
wrangle some boats.
Where it always has you waking up as Link. Even in Wind Waker, Errol's the one that wakes you up while you're asleep, getting sunburnt, apparently. But anyways, the example I always had is using Wind Waker as an example, where it's Link, his sister, and the grandmother. Imagine if it zooms in on your grandmother walking through the bedroom door, and there's a bed on both sides of the room. One would be Errol's, the other would be Link. and the game, like your grandmother says, like whatever you type your name at the beginning of the game to be,
Yeah.
your grandmother yells for you to wake up. And then as the camera closes in, like zooms in on the bed, getting the grandmother out of the view, you can select which one you want to play as, and then that's the one that wakes up.
Yep.
So
that would
like
be a good way to do it.
It would be a very simple way to do it. Instead of deliberate, like literally starting out asking you, are you a boy or girl, like Pokemon or other games, it would just be like, it would just leave it up to you to decide.
Yeah. And see, I think also part of the thing with Link, like a lot of people's backlash about Link has to be a man sort of thing, or it's not real Zelda game. The thing you have to realize is that when they're designing Link, the way that the game developers currently view Link is that he is sort of a vessel character or an avatar character, which the player is to insert themselves in. So Link as a character doesn't matter. He has very few traits, and that was intentionally designed that way.
Aonuma actually said that as well, that Link as the character doesn't matter because you're supposed to see, like, you are the character, not Link.
So for him to be, like, for you to pick, are you going to have a female or male Link, it's inconsequential to the character because there's not really much of a character there. So maybe rewriting old games, no, but if they made a new game going forward, there's no reason in my head to not have it as an option.
Yeah, and then
simple as that.
An easy way they could explain the spirit of the hero, as Miss Click put it, which in Twilight Princess, I think Twilight Princess is maybe the first time they actually say the spirit of the hero.
Yeah, and then they bring it up in Skyward Sword as well.
Yeah, so for that, in the same way they had Link and Aryll as brother and sister, they could just have it as there's twins. They were born at the same time. They both share the spirit of the hero. It's just which one are you picking? And then they could even include that in with the multiplayer game that Aonuma has been saying he wants to make for like 10 years.
Yes,
to where it's like, that's an easy way to explain multiplayer. It's like, well, how are there other Links? And Triforce Heroes, they were literally just saying, hey, these are just random people that happen to look like Link. That's it.
Yeah.
So that's how they explain those people. But they could just be like, oh, well, there's twins. They both have the spirit of the hero. That makes much more sense than apparently like a distant cousin or something like in Twilight Princess. Or not Twilight Princess, but...
and also, like, a lot of people are attached to the idea of Link as a character, but then in almost every game, he's a different character anyways. Who's just
they all have different attitudes and everything.
Yeah, so it's like, it doesn't... It's not like it's rewriting this character that you already know and love, because they're going to be introducing him as a new character, him or her, as a new character anyways. So it's like,
all right,
doesn't matter. Yeah. Anyway,
take us to our next question. I think that one will be the title of the video. I was thinking the first question, but the one about the female, I think we got more in depth on it than any of the other. So
bit of a buzz question, I think.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, we already did that one. Okay. Gamer Bud asks, of all the reincarnations of Link, Zelda, and Ganon, who is the strongest of each, and rank character in top 3?
Oh.
Top 3 Links, top 3 Zeldas, top 3 Ganons. So that's top 3 Ganons is tough, because I think there are only canonically 2 Ganondorfs. One in
but maybe
Ocarina
like which... Time. Like, is he stronger in Ocarina of Time? Is he stronger in Wind Waker? Is he stronger in Twilight Princess? But then Ganondorf in
that's fine.
Four Swords Ganondorf was a new... Like, he was an actual reincarnation, like Link.
Yeah. But he's the only one that is. Otherwise, all of Ganondorf or Ganon's appearances, it's the same character.
Yeah, and then...
Whereas Link and Zelda are different.
Do you want to do Ganon as well?
Yeah,
like
so
Ganon,
let's
because there are the different forms of Ganon. Like there's the Yuga Ganon.
Oh, that's true. Where he merges
with
Yuga.
When you type in the codes for the Oracle games, you get the bonus ending where you fight Ganon.
There's not actually Ganon, but the nightmare
Yeah.
mimicking Ganon in Link's Awakening.
Yeah, the Breath of the Wild Ganon
Mhm.
is probably the easiest
Yeah.
because
So I
he
guess
just
we'll have to
stands
think of
there.
appearances rather than like
Yeah. All right.
characters.
So starting with Zelda, who's the strongest?
Strongest.
Yeah, who's the strongest and the weakest Zelda to you?
Okay. I'm thinking strongest. Maybe Tetra. She actually helps you in the boss fight. She's savvy. She's a pirate. You know, she's very clever as well.
Yeah.
She's one of my favorites as well. I'm a little biased there. But actually, no. She's gonna be my number 2. I think Breath of the Wild Zelda is actually probably the strongest because she doesn't just seal Ganon, but she holds him at bay for 100 years straight without break. So I'd say that's maybe a little more powerful than Pirate Zelda.
Okay, I would say Breath of the Wild Zelda is the strongest.
Yeah.
The weakest, Twilight Princess Zelda.
Yeah, she helps too, but
Because
definitely
Ocarina
not
of
as much as
Time,
Tetra.
Ocarina of Time Zelda holds down Ganon. Ocarina of Time Zelda knows all of the magic and stuff that she teaches you as Sheik.
That's true.
Debate on whether Zelda and Sheik's the same person. Nintendo wants you to.
It's
For some
the same
reason,
person.
it is, but they say
It's
it's
the
a
same.
different person.
They
It's
didn't
like
say that.
they
No.
they just wing like. No, it's totally a boy. No. Because Tetra goes with you on the adventure. Twilight Princess Zelda doesn't really do anything. She just hides out, and then she gets turned into like puppet Zelda.
Weakest Zelda is
No, Minish Cap.
Adventure of Link, where she is asleep for the whole time.
I changed my answer. I don't think Minish Cap Zelda did anything except wake Link up.
Yeah, she gives you a shield. That's it.
Yeah. At least Twilight Princess Zelda tries to push you forward on your adventure.
Yeah. It's true. That's true. She heals Midna as well.
So Tetra's, she goes with you on the adventure. She has the power at the end. Twilight Princess Zelda, she gives you, like, I would say, Minish Cap Zelda's the weakest. Breath of the Wild is the strongest. Skyward.
You don't think Adventure of Link Zelda, where she's sleeping the whole time? Zelda 2, man.
Yeah, is that the same Zelda in Zelda 1 and 2?
It's a different Zelda, same Link, but then the Zelda in Zelda 2 has been asleep for like hundreds of years.
Okay. So
then Link wakes her up for some reason, and then there's 2 Zeldas somehow.
Yeah.
So
you don't really know much about her, so I'm staying with Minish Cap Zelda.
Yeah.
Because
fair enough.
She doesn't seem like she knows any real magic.
Yeah. True.
Skyward Sword.
Zelda 1 Zelda, she breaks the Triforce up into pieces and manages to kind of send for help at the very least. That's something. Yeah.
Yeah. It has to be one of the 2D Zeldas as the weakest.
Yeah. A Link to the Past Zelda doesn't do much. She hides in this. She rescues her at the beginning. She hides in the sanctuary like the whole time.
A Link Between Worlds. Zelda's very active.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay, so definitively, who are your 2?
Is it top 3 we're doing, or top 2
no,
and
just
then
2.
Weakest?
No, just like the strongest and the weakest. There's no. Yeah, there's just one of each.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say for sure Breath of the Wild strongest Zelda.
Same for me.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say pretty much just any of the 2D, really old Zelda games, any of those ones.
All right.
Take.
Yeah. It's because in Zelda 2 she could have power, we just don't see it.
Yeah.
So
that's true. In Zelda 2, the backstory, if I'm remembering correctly, I might be wrong. If someone in the chat knows this better than me, correct me. The backstory was that the reason she was cursed was because she held the Triforce of Wisdom and her brother. The only time there's canonically a prince as well. was jealous and cursed her, or hired someone to curse her, something like that. So we know she was powerful because she had the Triforce. So not Zelda 2, but just that one.
Alright, so Minish Cap.
Yes.
Maybe.
Sounds good. Minish Cap sounds like a solid bet.
Okay, so Breath of the Wild, Zelda is the strongest because she actually goes on a quest to learn how to use her powers. And then even when she didn't know how to use her powers, she still held Ganon.
A field of guardians first, and then took on Ganon.
Yeah.
Kept him at bay for 100 years.
Yeah, so then we go to Link. Who's the strongest Link? I would say Breath of the Wild Link.
Tough.
Because he has all of the... Like, he's the only one you can kill, and then he just revives because of Mipha's grace.
Only once, though. I mean, you can have a fairy.
And then, like, he can... You know, like, all of the guardian abilities he has. I think that makes him the strongest. But then... Skyward
Sword Zelda, or Skyward Sword Link, he obtains all 3 pieces of the Triforce.
Yeah.
So that makes him like.
Wait, does he get all 3 pieces?
Yeah, he does. I think he's the only. Him and Link and Zelda 2, I think, are the only ones that get. No, Zelda 2 Link doesn't get all 3. He gets.
Wind Waker Link has to. He's one of the only Links that has to prove himself to get the Triforce. Like, we were talking earlier, the Twilight Princess Link is just born with it on him.
Yeah.
Ocarina of Time Link gets it after just, like, getting the spiritual stones or whatever. But Wind Waker Link has to set out and prove himself to the goddesses to get the Triforce. And then he literally has to physically find the Triforce pieces. So
at the end of A Link to the Past... Link to the Past Link is one of my favorites, not just partially for nostalgia reasons, but not just for nostalgia reasons.
Yeah.
So, because he does obtain the complete Triforce at the end of the game. And then he goes on to have 3 more games, right? He's the only Link that has A Link to the Past Link, because then he does the Oracle games. And
Oracle's not canon for them anymore.
I refuse to believe that.
Because they literally created a brand new Link. Yeah, because it was A Link to the Past, Oracle games, Link's Awakening. Yeah. Now it's just A Link to the Past, A Link's Awakening, and then that. But the theory, and Nintendo has also suggested that the old man in A Link Between Worlds is Link from A Link to the Past.
Yeah, it's theory territory, but it's a pretty solid one.
Yeah, and then and then like in the game, it tells about, like, one of the characters mentions that he's had. I have a theory about this. It's like talking about, can different versions of the hero exist at the same time? I forgot what the title of it was, but it basically talks about if that is Link, and then like there's also the hero Shade, who teaches Twilight Princess Link, but then he's like a ghost. He's not really there. So he like teaches you in the spirit realm or whatever it is, because he's physically dead, because that's what his whole story is about. He died before he could do anything. But it's like, can the multiple versions of the spirit exist at the same time? Like, can a reincarnation exist while the other is still alive? Is basically what it's about. And it goes on to talk about the like him being the Link from anyways.
Yes.
So Ocarina of Time Link, because however powerful you think Twilight Princess Link is, part of the canon story in Twilight Princess, although it is optional in the game, but the canon story is the hero of time teaches Twilight Princess Link all of the combat that he knows. So however powerful Twilight Princess Link is, Ocarina of Time Link's the one who taught him. So then it's like Ocarina of Time Link had like Din's Fire, Nehru's Love, which is like,
and then
Nehru's
you can transform in Majora's Mask to all the different all the different masks, right?
So
there's all those different forms.
Oh, and then he's got Fierce Deity Link.
Yeah. I still think Skyward Sword Link strictly because he obtains all 3 pieces of the Triforce. But if we don't count that, then probably Breath of the Wild Link.
All right. So here's the thing.
Mhm.
After talking about all this, here are the facts. A Link to
Okay.
the Past Link may or may have not gone through the Oracle games,
I still think he did.
and then
Headcanon.
Link to the Past, or
Mhm.
Link's Awakening, I mean, and
Mhm.
then he is an old man who still battles against Link in A Link Between
Do
Worlds.
handstand.
So he's across all 4 of those games. And then you have Ocarina of Time Link, who gets like Din's Fire, Nehru's Love, which is kind of like Daruk's Protection, but lasts like, instead of 4 hits or whatever, it lasts for like 30 seconds. You get all of the Majora's masks, and then you get he returns in Twilight Princess. Then you have Skyward Sword Link, who, as you said, gets all of the Triforce pieces. Wind Waker Link
was strong enough to kill Demise.
Yeah.
Who the goddess Hylian was not strong enough to kill.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big one to me. Although, theoretically, Demise was possibly not at his most powerful because he had just been revived. So he might not have been at his full strength, but still.
I'm going with Skyward Sword Link. Here's why.
Me too.
Breath of the Wild Link kills Ganon with the help from the light arrow.
Yes.
He's not
Divine
he's not
Pieces.
able to kill Ganon, final form
Without
Ganon,
that.
with just the sword.
Yeah.
But Skyward Sword Link used just the sword.
Yes.
Ocarina of Time Link has to use the light arrows.
Yes.
Um,
OG Zelda Link and Link to the Past Link used,
Twilight Princess
silver
Link.
arrows.
Twilight Princess Link uses the arrows, or Zelda uses the arrows, while you use the sword.
Same with Wind Waker Link.
Mm-hmm. So I would say it's a tie between Majora's Mask Link or Ocarina of the Hero of Time, because he's in Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and then teaches Twilight Princess Link. So it's either him, because he's got the Fierce Deity Link mask. And we don't know exactly how powerful the Fierce Deity is. But there's also Skyward Sword Link, who is able to kill Demise, who Hylia wasn't able to kill with only the sword. There's no side characters there to help him. Zelda's not holding him back with her powers. There's none of that. It's just...
It's a one-on-one battle with 2 living swords.
And then he's trained from his childhood as a knight, as a swordsman. But Breath of the Wild Link was as well, but...
It's true. Breath of the Wild Link, it's said in Mipha's journal, I think, that
he's like
at
the
4
super
years old, he was able
swordsman.
to best the other knights of Hyrule in the sword fight.
Yeah. So...
Which is insane, by the way.
Because it's a cop-out for Majora's Mask Link to use the Fierce Deity mask, but canon-wise, he does obtain all of the masks and help everyone, which, as you said, is like a dragon break. So, which brings us to our next question, which we'll get to. And after this question, we're going to do one more question from the mailbag, and then we're going to take 2 questions from the chat. So 3 more questions. This question's almost over because now we have Ganon and Ganondorf. The weakest link. There's a pun.
The weakest link. No pun intended. That's probably 4 Swords. I want to say. Not Minish Cap Link, but like OG 4 Swords Link. He's only really, like, his strength is in his numbers, but... So maybe it'd be hard for all 4 of them, like, to take on all 4 at once, because there's 4, but I don't think... There's not really much about
Is it the
him
same
that-
link?
All 4?
Yeah, he's not split.
So when he draws the 4 swords,
so it's
it
not
splits him into
it's
4.
not other people helping him. It's
No. Triforce Heroes, it's like there's 3 people that are separate people helping each other. 4 swords, the explanation is when he draws the 4
it's like
sword,
Minish
it
Cap.
splits him.
Yeah, it's like Minish Cap, where he splits
Yeah.
into the different. Minish Cap was
Yeah.
cool because at different times, like you would split into 2, then you'd split into 3, and then split into. So that was
Yeah.
interesting. But anyways, yeah, I would Four Swords Link is the weakest, I would say.
Yeah,
Cause
that's my thought.
yeah, and there wasn't any real danger in that game because it's more of like a fun party game as opposed to like, oh, the moon's falling. So
Mhm.
weakest Link, Four Swords, strongest Link, Skyward Sword.
Yeah.
All
That
right.
sounds good to me. It's just funny because they are. Oh no, Minish Cap would be. I was gonna say funny because they're closest on the timeline, but no, they're not. Don't listen to me.
Yeah. So weakest Ganondorf would be Wind Waker, I would say.
Yeah, he's old man Ganon at that point.
Yeah, he's very
He's old and tired.
soft.
Yeah.
Like
He's very surprisingly merciful a
yeah,
couple
like
times.
he gives the reason that he tried to take over Hyrule was because like it wasn't evil intentions, which this was before the Curse of Demise. So it got retconned with Skyward Sword. But the reason that he was evil in Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker says, because his people had to live in the harsh environment of Gerudo Desert, which is why I made the joke on the last video that Ilia, not Ilia from Twilight Princess, but our actual friend Ilia from the Discord, did the voice over for. I made the joke that if they would have just taught Ganondorf the Song of Storms, there would have been, nothing bad would have happened. He would have, because his only reason in Wind Waker for trying to take over Hyrule and doing all of the evil stuff he did was because of like the harsh environment that they were forced to live in. So he wouldn't have done any of those bad things if they weren't forced to live in the desert. I'll Google the exact quote, actually. Ganondorf,
Oh, it's like
Wind Waker, quote.
Lived. Yeah. Let's see if I can find it.
Yeah. So he says, my country lay within a vast desert. When the sun rose in the sky, a burning wind punished my lands, scarring the world. And when the moon climbed into the dark of night, a frigid gale pierced our homes. No matter when it came, the wind carried the same thing, death. But the winds that blew across the green fields of Hyrule brought something other than suffering and ruin. I coveted the wind, I suppose. And then when he dies, at the end of the game, he says the wind. It's blowing.
Mm-hmm.
So the Ganondorf...
Which means he's dying because he carries death.
Yeah.
Whoa.
For the people that got that, like Daniel.
Like, I actually just realized, like, put that connection together just now.
Yeah. So... oh yeah, while I'm at it, I'll read this one too. Do you sleep still? Wait. Do not be so hasty, boy. I can see this girl's dreams. Oceans, 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 oceans. As far as the eye can see, they are vast seas. None can swim across them. They yield... Okay, basically, he talks about how the water came and it brought death and everything. Kind of like the winds. But anyways, the thing here is Ganondorf basically says the only reason he took over was because during the day in the desert, it was so hot, it was miserable.
Yeah.
And then at night, instead of cooling off, it got so cold that it was still miserable. So if the Gerudo would have just moved to Hyrule, which apparently they could freely go to Hyrule because they went there to get men for whatever reason.
We know what whatever reason.
And so if the Gerudo can freely go back and forth, why couldn't they just live there? You know?
Yeah. Well, I assume, like, traveling in is one thing, but, like, the whole race of them migrating, there's probably some political reason
Yeah. So
that
that's...
they couldn't.
Yeah. So in Wind Waker, he basically says, like, you know, it sucks living in the desert. Let us live in Hyrule. So that's why he wanted to take over. But then when he did take over, like, he didn't even bring the Gerudo there. Like, they're still in the desert.
Yeah. See, my thought is that when... Yeah, they totally are.
He's horrible
was,
king.
Like, that was, like, actually his belief, you know? Like, he actually did feel that way, and he did want better for his people. But, like, that envy, that jealousy, and the greed kind of allowed, quote-unquote, allowed the darkness into his heart. You know, as cheesy as that sounds. And so...
he just wanted to play piano.
Yeah, man, he just wants to go in his lava moat castle and
Nah.
play piano. Yeah.
It could have been like the Triforce when he touched it and got the power, it corrupted him.
Yeah.
And then in Wind Waker, like after he dies or whatever and comes back in the Wind Waker or sealed, like maybe when like as he's sealed, the Triforce piece leaves him. Does that happen, or does he still possess it? Because he could be nicer. He could be nicer in Wind Waker because he's no longer corrupted by the power of the Triforce.
Right, but he still has it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. When he realizes that Zelda is Tetra, you see the symbol on the back of his hand.
Yeah. So, yeah, Wind Waker Wind Waker Ganondorf would be the weakest. Twilight Princess Ganondorf would be the strongest.
Right. You don't want to go in the Breath of the Wild direction again for strongest, because even though
that would be Ganon.
Gameplay wise,
that would be
true,
Ganon.
although the question says Ganon.
Yeah, but
So
I said Ganon and Ganondorf.
Right. Yeah. Just from a gameplay standpoint, that boss fight's really easy, but
yeah,
like in the lore of the game, he pretty much causes the apocalypse, right?
Yeah. So with Ganondorf, Twilight Princess Ganon, he has so much power that while being sealed away, he can still give someone so much power, Zant, that Zant's able to take over. Like, even as powerful as Midna is, Zant is still able to, like, overpower her. And she's supposed to be, I guess, akin to the power that Zelda has. They're just, one's in Hyrule, one's in...
and even her using the Fused Shadow is not as powerful as Ganondorf, because... And the Fused Shadow was, like, locked away because they were trying to use it, the Dark Interlopers were trying to use it as a weapon to steal the Triforce. So we know that would probably be a pretty powerful artifact.
Yeah. So I'm going with purely Ganondorf, Twilight Princess Ganondorf being the strongest. Then Ocarina of Time, Four Swords, Wind Waker. Because the Four Swords Ganondorf isn't shown... I think it's Four Swords. He looks like a vampire.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's Four Swords Adventure again. And
he's not shown with the soft side.
No. And he obtains the Trident of Power, which is supposedly very powerful as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the list of Ganondorf. With Ganon, I would say the weakest.
Ganon is probably
A Link to the Past.
Zelda, or it might be also Four Swords Adventure, because he's sort of mindless still.
Yeah, and he has to use the Trident for power.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like sort of botched resurrection, not really his full form, right?
Yeah, and the strongest would either be the Calamity Ganon.
Yeah.
Or... No, I would say, because Midna was able to overpower Ganon and Twilight Princess. So, like, he's running at you, and Midna just, like, literally grabs him and throws him down with her hair.
Yes.
So, like, I wonder how powerful she would be without... Like, that makes me... How powerful would Midna be without, like, in her true form? Where she's not trapped in that form. Anyways, like, there is no Wind Waker version of Ganon, which it would have been interesting to see.
Yeah.
I think it would have been more pig-like. Where, like...
much like the Moblin design in Wind Waker.
Like, Twilight Princess makes him look like a giant boar, similar to Breath of the Wild. Ocarina of Time, I thought, had the coolest look, because he looked more like a beast, as opposed to a pig. But with Ganon already being bigger in Wind Waker, I think it would have made more sense for him to look more pig-like. With like the full-on pig nose and everything. But okay, so that's mine. the strongest Ganon would be Breath of the Wild Calamity Ganon, because I think the story says he gave up his physical form, or as Ganondorf, and his resurrection to just be as powerful as possible.
Yeah.
Isn't that what it says? And that's why he looks the way he does?
Yes. Yeah.
So
I would agree as well.
Yeah. All right.
Yes.
So
Breath of the Wild Ganon.
Next question, Daniel. Sorry. Wait, to recap, for everyone who's paying, this might be its own video, like who's the strongest, blah, blah, blah. So, strongest Link, Skyward Sword Link, because he possessed the Triforce, was able to kill Demise, who is so powerful, Hylian wasn't able to kill him, and Demise is the power for all of the other evil people.
Yeah.
So, Skyward Sword Link's the strongest. The weakest would be any of the 2D, because it doesn't really delve too much into how powerful they are. I think we decided on Four Sword Link.
Four Swords Link, yeah.
Yeah. Strongest Zelda was Breath of the Wild Zelda.
Yep.
Because she was able to seal Demise for 100 years without knowing how to use her powers, and she wiped out all the Guardians. The weakest Zelda would have been like Zelda 2, because she's asleep the whole time.
Yep. Or we said Minish Cap as well.
Yeah, because they don't really do anything. Strongest Ganondorf, human Hylian Gerudo form. Yeah, Gerudo form,
Twilight
Ganondorf.
Princess.
Twilight Princess, because he has so much power, he's able to give power to Zant, and Zant is more powerful than anyone. So if Ganondorf's able to give away like a piece of his power, or like most of his power, whatever. So yeah, you guys get it. Weakest Ganondorf.
Yeah.
Wind Waker Ganondorf, because he's nice. He doesn't just kill Link. He just throws him out.
Yep.
Ganon, strongest Ganon would have been Breath of the Wild Calamity Ganon, and weakest Ganon would have been Four Swords Ganon, because he needed the trident. So there's that video. Let us know who you think is the strongest and the weakest of all of them are. What's our next question, Daniel?
Well, maybe let's see.
The best looking Link in Ganon.
Sorry?
That's it.
Best looking Link Zelda in Ganon. Best looking. Well.
Yeah.
That's a debate for another day.
Yeah, that'll be for the next mailbag, Mr. PS Killer.
Okay, this one's good. Gladiator 19. I think this comes from YouTube.
Yeah. All right,
Gladiator
so people
19.
in the chat, this is the last question that we're getting from the mailbag. So we need 2 questions from the chat. So give us your questions in the chat. Good questions, not bad questions. Daniel gets upset if he's given bad questions.
I do.
All right.
So, this one's a good one. Gladiator 19 says, I don't know if you've answered this. We haven't. But, how do you think the series would have changed had Majora's Mask
you're going
been
with that
allowed?
one?
Yeah.
There was one that I put in that I thought you would have...
Which one did you think?
The Dragon Break one.
Where's that?
There's someone who
what
literally...
What got you to think of your Dragon Break theory? Oh, that's a good... Oh, I didn't see that one.
Wait, there might be... Hold on.
Okay.
Control
F.
F.
One. You're right.
Dragon.
No, it's in there. I see it.
Yeah, I didn't think that was the question. I thought the question was, what do you think of the Dragon Break theory?
Oh. It says,
so this is
think of the Dragon Break theory?
But this is even more interesting, because I thought you were going to answer it saying, hey, I have a video about this on the channel. So you could kind of do that. But he already likes you. He's already a fan of your theory.
Ooh. Yay.
So, start us over.
Okay, well, which one? Now I don't know which one to pick. We'll do both.
Okay, all right. Do you have the time?
I do.
To do four questions?
We're good.
4 questions? All right.
Questions are good.
All right.
Okay.
Start us off with either.
Okay, we'll just quickly do Fierce Deities. What got you to think of your Dragon Break theory?
Wait, Daniel, what's a Dragon Break?
Oh, so if those who don't know, the Dragon Break theory is
There's no dragons in Zelda.
First of all, there are dragons in Zelda. There are people who commented on that video that I made saying there's no dragons in Zelda, but there are.
Yeah, the first boss in the very first Zelda
boss.
game is a dragon.
Yeah, and then there's
It's a
boss
fire.
in
It's
Zelda 2
literally.
that's a dragon.
It's a fire-breathing dragon. Yeah. They retconned it to Volvagia. Skyward Sword had gods that were dragons.
Dragons. Yeah, there's
The
three dragons in Breath of the Wild.
The Ritos fly
They worship
because they're
the dragon.
giving the scale of a dragon, which
Yeah.
is debatable because the Rito in Breath of the Wild, like maybe they have to go get the scale from the dragon too. Who knows?
Yeah. But point is, there's
No
lots
dragons.
of dragons, guys. So dragons, they're everywhere.
Argarok.
Like that meme, dragons.
Yeah,
Anyway,
Twilight Princess has Argarok.
that's true. Yeah, there's a dragon in almost every game. Jeez.
Twilight Princess. I forgot his name, but he's theorized to be the skeleton of a dragon.
Yeah, I think so. But anyways, the Dragon Break theory is a video I made a while back, well over a year and probably a year and a half ago, before Breath of the Wild came out. There was a lot of speculation about timeline placement. So my theory was, well, a lot of people are like, where in the timeline does it take place? The theory was that Breath of the Wild takes place at the end of all three timelines when the timelines converge. And the way that this works is it's a Dragon Break, which is from, I know Champion of Morrowind in the chat is losing his stuff over this because he's all excited. But it comes from Elder Scrolls, in which there was one game called Daggerfall, second Elder Scrolls game.
Oh yeah.
The ending of it, you basically had a choice. There were like 8 different endings depending on what choice you made of who to give the Numidium, who to give the Totem of Tiber's Septum to, so that they could control the Numidium. So basically, there was a super powerful weapon. You had to choose which political figure to give this horribly powerful weapon to, and depending on what would happen, obviously there would be hugely different outcomes, like people getting killed or like entirely different political, layouts for the continent. So when they were making Morrowind, the third Elder Scrolls game, they're like, how do we explain what is the canon ending? So, do they just pick one that was the canon ending, or do they just make it so that it's never brought up and it's not important? What they did is they made this thing where the Dragon Break happens, so there's a time paradox, time goes into flux, all possible outcomes occur simultaneously, and nobody alive during that time quite knows what exactly happened because there's lots of different accounts of it. So it's a time paradox. So the Dragon Break does happen in Zelda as well.
Majora's Mask.
Majora's Mask, I am so positive. It's technically a theory, but it totally is a Dragon Break because for the ending,
the canon ending of Majora's Mask, like
that all the people you helped them all.
Yeah.
And they're all happy. Yeah.
Which is impossible to do because if every time you go back in time, everything that you did to help them disappears, and there's certain side quests that you have to do. Like they have their own splits, so like you can either do one side quest or you can do another side quest, like with the bomb bag and stuff.
People argued with me in the comments of this video saying like, no, it's actually possible to do all of these things in one run. First of all, nobody playing Majora's Mask reasonably does all 4 dungeons and all the side quests in one 3-day cycle. And even if you could, but you can't because
the game makes you go back in time.
That's true. It makes you go back in time once. The bomb shop lady gets mugged, but like in order to do one side quest, you have to let her get mugged. So you can't finish the side quest where she gets mugged if you let her get mugged. The Andrew Cafe side quest has 2 endings. You have to do that side quest twice to complete everything. It's just there's so much. Yeah,
there's like the sun's mask and the wedding mask or whatever it's called.
There's the couple's mask. You either, in order to get it, you have to go back in time as well in order to get the couple's mask, and you either get the postman's hat or another bottle at the end of it. So you have to do it twice to get all 3 of those things. And nobody playing the game would actually just try and do all of that in one run anyways. The 4 dungeons, you probably do each dungeon in one 3-day cycle and then go back in time. That's reasonable. The
main part of this is like there's side quests that you can either do one part of the side quest or the other part. You can't do both of them because if you do one the other can't happen. Like, it literally can't happen. Like the bomb bag quest. Like, you either save the bomb bag or you don't. You can't do both.
You can't get the... I think it's the all-night mask. You can't get it if you save her, right?
Yeah. Because you have to get it from the Curiosity Shop. But the thing is, the canon ending for the game is Link saves everybody. So for him to save everybody, all of the different splits that happens has to come back together sometime like during the wedding, or like after he kills Majora, maybe it all comes together.
So my thought is, once the moon is basically being destroyed and like going back, when it hits dawn of a new day is what it shows, dawn of a new day, Dragon Break.
Yeah.
Everything happens, even though really like only your last 3-day cycle would have actually happened, but somehow it all happened.
Yeah.
So that's the Dragon Break. So how did I come up with that was actually that I was making a different video about Majora's Mask. And I was recording, in like 4 days, I played through the game 100% to capture footage of the whole game, including the ending. And when I was watching the credits, it clicked in my head. I was like, this makes no sense. How could all of these endings have happened unless there was a time paradox of some kind?
Yeah, and there already are paradoxes in Zelda. Like the Song of Storms is a paradox.
Yes, and Skyward Sword's ending is also a sort of time paradox because you go back in time.
They even say Demise exists outside of time, which doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that works.
Because like he's conscious, like it's the same Demise whether you're 100 years in the you were 100 years in the future and there's events that happen with Demise or whatever. But then you can go to the past and the past version of Demise remembers what happened in the future even though it's in the future. So it's like, how does that... What's going on here? And then it's like, if Ocarina of Time taught me anything, traveling through time 7 years causes huge paradoxes. Timeline splits. So now we're going 100 years back in time. Something's bad's gotta happen here. Yeah. And then it's like, there's two Zeldas here.
There's two Zeldas the whole time.
Zelda, she's sleeping. She's sleeping over there, but she's right here beside me. What's going on?
So it's all messed up already. So
two Impas.
I started doing research about it. Now Daggerfall came to mind because I used to play Daggerfall when I was really young, when I was a kid, and I used to play Morrowind as well.
Nerd.
When I was older than that, obviously, because it came out after. And it didn't occur to me like what impact Daggerfall had on Morrowind until I was putting these pieces together, and I started sort of putting all the pieces together, and I realized I had to do a lot of research into what a Dragon Break was. And I'm gonna tell you right now, if you try and find the answer on Elder Scrolls wikis and stuff, it's really not explained very well. I think my video explains it better than a lot of these Elder Scroll forums and stuff do. But yeah, then after that, I've made probably one of my favorite videos I've ever worked on. When I was still working in Zelda Informer at the time. But yeah, it's good. It's good. So I think the theory holds up really well because in Breath of the Wild, there are so many things that allude to different timelines. There's in like the ceremony talks about Twilight Princess, and then there's stuff that references Wind Waker and stuff that references the original games, and there's like. There's the Rito, which are only in the one timeline, and there's Wolf Link. I don't know if that's canon or not, but it's debatably canon. And then there's the Zora Stone tablets that talk about Princess Ruto being a sage who was a princess, which wouldn't make sense if it was in the same timeline as Twilight Princess, because she was never awoken as a sage. So all of these things, just like there was no other answer to me, other than it has to account all three timelines. Like there's no other way it would make sense.
This is why I want to get Axel the Beast on here.
Oh yeah,
because he's another very knowledgeable Zelda fan, and
he very much, maybe more than me.
He is a fan of a linear timeline.
Yes.
So I want to get a debate where you're debating essentially the split timeline, and then not only the split timeline, but a reforming, where he would be debating everything happens in chronological order with no splits or anything.
Now, a linear timeline would fix the Breath of the Wild problem of, like,
it's like
these different times.
There is no, like, Breath of the Wild, basically his argument would be Breath of the Wild doesn't combine all 3 timelines because it doesn't have to. Because it's just the one timeline. Which is explainable if you put the games in a certain order. But we have Hyrule Historia, which Nintendo retconned with Hyrule Encyclopedia.
Yes, it's true.
Which will be retconned as soon as Masterworks gets here, probably.
Yes. I'm going to post the Dragon Break video in the chat here because don't watch it yet.
wait till this is over.
Wait till we're done and then just have it loaded up in another tab.
Yeah.
So
I wonder
that's,
if I could
very proud of that video.
Pay Nate to let me post it on my channel.
Possibly. I doubt he would object because I think it's demonetized. And also, I made it. He didn't make it, so.
Well, like it's a weird, like, it was made for Zelda Informer.
Yeah.
So it's like, does Mossy's have any rights to it?
It was
does Nate?
Made by me for Zelda Informer, but it's on the Nintendo Prime channel, so it's like the GoldenEye 64 of YouTube videos.
Yeah, that's like,
you know?
For a short while I was doing video hosting for Zelda Dungeon, Zelda Informer's YouTube channel whenever they combined into the one YouTube channel. I was doing news videos and a mailbag for them. And now those videos are all just gone. Because Mossy's just wants his video, and Axel mentioned something about, like, even his videos are, like, slowly disappearing from the channel. And he was, like, the main face of the channel for, like, years. So
kind of sad that that's happening.
Yeah, I don't think I'm supposed to mention that, though.
Oh, no.
Maybe. Sorry, Moss. Sorry, Axel. Sorry,
Worst
Nate.
case scenario, the only reference to Zelda Informer in the video is, like, the intro and I think the end card. So if we had to talk to Nate, I'm sure I could probably just remove them and then we could repost it. But I think it's a pretty airtight theory, but it's still a theory. We have to accept that. I'm not going to say it's canon ever until it's confirmed in some way.
The Majora's Mask Dragon Break is canon with the
totally
Breath of the Wild. Well, Nintendo said like everything happens, so that's canon, and then Breath of the Wild, possibly. But that's a debate for another video. But what's our final question from the mailbag? Everybody, repost your questions. Tag us, because if you tag me, I can see the question better because it's highlighted. I can tell if it's a question just by a glance as opposed to digging through all of them. So tag me with your question. Daniel, what's our final mailbag question?
It's the one I was going to say before. From Gladiator19. They ask, I don't know if you have answered this.
All of these questions can be separated into their own video. Like, who is the strongest and weakest Link, Zelda, Ganon? And then, what is a Zelda Dragon Break? And then, like, these can all... This is awesome. These can all be videos of their own.
No, they're really good questions this week, so...
Yeah.
So the question is, how do you think the series would have changed had Majora's Mask been allowed to have a longer development time? So if they weren't limited to just 1 year that they developed it in. So my initial thought is, it probably, if they had been pushing it up past the 1 year mark, probably would have gotten pushed to GameCube and been overhauled, and we probably would have gotten the week-long cycle instead of the 3-day cycle.
Oh,
that they were initially planning.
Yeah. See, I was thinking there's not much more they could have done because it was on the Nintendo 64 and it needed the extra RAM from the expansion pack just to play on the system. So it already took full advantage of what it could. And the reason it didn't have the 7-day cycle wasn't because the system couldn't handle it. It's because there wasn't enough data like you couldn't physically put that much data on the Nintendo 64 cartridges. I think the most they had was the 32 megabit, which was Majora's Mask. Like Majora's Mask already used the largest memory thing they had, which like even now with the Nintendo Switch, the cards can only be up to a certain gigabyte. So a lot of companies are like getting 8 gigabyte cards, and then they're having you download the rest to the Switch. So like the full game's not even on the cart, which is weird. But anyways, I was thinking there wouldn't be much more they could do. Like maybe there would have been a few more puzzles, a few more side quests, but they couldn't physically do much more without adding like an expansion, like an actual expansion to the game. And the disk drive wasn't there, so that there was no way to add an expansion to it. So yeah, like my thought is there's not much more they could do. Like a few more side quests, a couple more characters, like a few more puzzles in each dungeon to flesh them out a bit more. But they're like, the original intention was the 7-day cycle, but they couldn't do it because of the disk drive. So if they would have delayed it for another year or two, which Wind Waker came out only 2 years later, so if it would have came out as like a launch title for the GameCube, when did the GameCube come out?
I think 2001. I'm pretty sure. Let me do the old fact check there.
And then Wind Waker was a year after the GameCube, because it launched with Luigi's Mansion.
It launched September 14th, 2001 in Japan, and then November 18th, 2001 in North America. And then, poor Europe didn't get it until May 2002. So
yeah, so it would have been a launch title for the GameCube. If they would have delayed it by just 1 year, it would have been a launch title for the GameCube.
Yeah. So they would have enough power to do the week instead of
the graphics may have looked closer to the Space World tech demo.
I think so. Or like how, think about in Melee, how Link and like the Termina Great Bay stage looks in Melee.
Yeah.
But that the whole game. So probably like decent looking, pretty decent looking Zelda game.
Somewhere between Smash Brothers and okay, so Ocarina of Time 3D used the power, like the more powerful graphics of the 3DS to look closer to the concept art. So maybe if it would have released for the GameCube, it would have just, because the 3DS and the GameCube are about the same in terms of power, because like Luigi's Mansion 3D and then Luigi's Mansion for the GameCube look similar. So, and then like the 3DS even plays like a Wii game, the Xenoblade. So it's like the power is there. So I imagine with the GameCube, it would have looked maybe closer to what Ocarina of Time 3D looks like, which is, it looks the same, just better is the only way I can describe it. Like
maybe it's not as good as the 3DS, but definitely pretty similar, I would say. Yeah.
But it would have been like that, and then it would have had the full 7-day cycle, which means there would have been a lot more side quests, possibly more dungeons. So but then what happens, like Wind Waker? Yeah, maybe. Depends how the entire design. Is, right? Well, the entire design of Wind Waker was they were trying to come up with a new way for Link to look, because Miyamoto didn't like the way the Space World tech demo looked. And then like the artists were just drawing different concepts of Link, and then one of them drew a concept of, I think it was like a Toon Zelda, and Miyamoto loved it, so they went with that. So it's like, if that meeting would have never happened, there wouldn't have been the Space World tech demo, because they could have just showed off what Majora's Mask looked like. Yeah. So then Wind Waker possibly never would have happened. And then if Wind Waker didn't happen, Twilight Princess would have never happened, because Twilight Princess was made because nobody liked Wind Waker.
Yeah, jeez, man.
And then
Like,
the only reason Skyward Sword looks the way it does is because they wanted to make, like, they liked the way Wind Waker looked, they liked the way Twilight Princess looked. They wanted to do something in the middle. Chubalima, oh, it's my fault. She's back in the chat. Yeah.
yeah, so it's hard to say. Like, we probably wouldn't have gotten Wind Waker in the visual style that it was.
I think
We might have still gotten something comparable, but
I think we would have gotten a third Hero of Time game. Instead of Wind Waker, I think they would have kept the graphics of Majora's Mask.
Now,
that's a loaded question.
Twilight Princess was made in its art style as a sort of a correction, as it were, to the reception of Wind Waker.
Please, Wind Waker fan.
Yeah.
Or so Wind Waker hate.
Yeah, so because people didn't like how Wind Waker looked at the time, even though it's bloody stunning.
I've gotten so many so many comments on... one of the videos that we made was the top 10 things Nintendo doesn't want you to know about Zelda or whatever. And one of the things was Wind Waker 2 would have happened if like Twilight Princess would have never happened. We would have got Wind Waker 2, not Phantom Hourglass, but actual Wind Waker 2 if it wasn't for everyone hating Wind Waker. Because now everyone loves the art style of Wind Waker. Wind Waker HD looks amazing. One of the best looking games on the Wii U.
Oh, yeah.
So with that in mind, like, Nintendo, put that in quotes, doesn't want you to know that originally Wind Waker looked like nobody liked it.
Yeah.
So, like, that's something Nintendo doesn't want you to know, or wouldn't want you to remember. Anyways, kind of like the way they used to have, like, they used to own sex hotels. So Nintendo doesn't want
everyone.
PG Nintendo doesn't want you to know that. I think they called them love hotels.
Yeah, I think that sounds right.
Yeah, it's like, Mommy, let's go visit Nintendo. No,
no. You don't know what they've been up to.
Yeah.
Yes. So they would have really rolled into pretty much at least Skyward Sword for art style.
Yeah.
So we could have a very different looking series, which might have retained a lot of fans, but it might have also. One of the things about Zelda that's great is that it's changing a lot. Right?
Yeah.
So we might not have had that sort of aspect.
And
to it.
That's one of the things that when we had Hard for Games, Tony from Hard for Games on.
Yes.
And we discussed a future video idea of what would have happened if Ura Zelda would have released, if the Nintendo disk drive was successful.
Yeah.
And part of that video is like, if Ura Zelda would have released, we never would have got Majora's Mask. Mm-hmm. And then, because they would have just moved on to the Wind Waker. And then Wind Waker's art style may have not even looked the same. So it's kind of similar to that. Like, if they had more time to work on Majora's Mask, then yeah.
Yeah. No, it's this is a heavy question.
It is.
Yes.
Because there's so many variables.
That's the thing.
Because, like, the guy who drew the concept art that they went with for the Wind Waker, that could have been something that he had been wanting to do for a long time, and he finally had his chance to show him, which means he would have at some point eventually showed Miyamoto or Aonuma. Mm-hmm. Or it could have been something that he just came up with on the spot because of the circumstances or situations at the time. So it's like, it could have been something he was always planning to do, or it could have been something that he just did on the spot. And if it was something he was always planning to do, then whether or not Majora's Mask was delayed and released on the Gamecube.
Yeah.
So that's my idea. But I think that this conversation coming to a close on my side.
No, it's just like my brain is running wild with this idea. Like, I don't know, maybe we would have gotten some hella good games as well, but then I'm thinking about all the ways, like all the stuff we kind of would have missed out on, right? So it's yeah, that's a heavy question, man. But you know what? If it had happened, we would be none the wiser.
Yeah, we would have been
be
wondering.
We'd be answering this mailbag, and the question would be, what would happen if Majora's Mask had only been developed in 1 year?
Yeah. What if they rushed it?
What if they rushed it? Yeah. Jeez.
All right. All right. Questions from the chat.
Yeah, I've got one picked out. Do you?
Yeah. What's up, everybody? This is Jesse and Daniel for the Zelda Mailbag. This time we are answering questions live from the chat. So get your questions in, and if you have a question, post it in the comments below if you're watching this video on the recorded version for YouTube. Put your question in the comment below, or go to our Discord, or find us on Twitter at CaptBurgerson, at GameOverJesse. You can ask us the question there to have it featured on the next mailbag, in the comments below, on Discord, or patreon.com/GameOverJesse. Daniel, what is our question?
Our question comes from Losing Limo, who asks, if you could include one new character into Hyrule Warriors and include one new map.
This is live?
Yeah, it's in the chat. You have to scroll up a bit.
It's also in the Discord.
Oh. Well, I guess we didn't get to it before, so
okay.
I guess you put it in the chat here. But one new character into Hyrule Warriors and one new stage.
Okay.
Hyrule Warriors.
Well, they're adding in the Breath of the Wild Link and Zelda. Oh, this is a cool question, too, because they're coming out with Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition for the Switch.
Yeah, so I think Link and Zelda and Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition, the Breath of the Wild Link and Zelda, I think it's just costumes. I'm pretty sure not new characters. So,
yeah, it's costumes.
Yeah, so
we may or may not be getting a copy of that. You can cross your fingers. Well,
I mean, we got Hyrule, or we got Fire Emblem Warriors before, so yeah.
Like I have it on Wii U, so if I get it, you would probably be the one getting it.
Oh, I have it on Wii U as well.
Oh, do you?
Yes.
Okay.
But I've been thinking about getting it on Switch because the
DLC. I don't have the desire to go back and play it, even if I'm not gonna go and buy it for the Nintendo Switch, is what I'm saying, because I already have it on Wii U, even though it looks better, has more features on the Switch. But they could release DLC for it like they did with the Pokken Tournament. Like they gave a definitive version of Pokken Tournament with all the DLC, but then they released new DLC. So his question actually makes sense in the way that even though this is the definitive version, just like Pokken Tournament Definitive Edition, they could still add new DLC to the game.
Yes.
I talked a lot.
No, that would be good.
Sorry.
No. So, Jesse, one new character, one new stage. And go.
Yeah. People in the comments, give us who would you like to see as well. I would say my default answer will be the Happy Mask Salesman. But I'm going to try to think of a more clever answer because there's Tingle, the bug girl, I forgot her name.
Agatha.
Yeah, there's Agatha, which is a character you would never think to have in the game. If you're thinking of fighting characters, yeah,
it could be anyone.
You could bring in Milan or Malin. So even the mayor of Ordon Village.
That's true.
Because he's the only one aside from Link that was able to wrestle a Goron down.
That's true.
With the iron boots. Yeah.
He used the iron boots. He cheated.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. You know what? Who I think would be really cool, and this may be a lame cop answer. Oh.
Ravio. Is Ravio? Can you play as Ravio? I'm gonna look it up.
Oh, I think. Check if he's in Legends. He might be in Legends.
Ravio. Hyrule.
I would like to see. I think Urbosa would be a really cool.
He is. Okay.
Urbosa would be a really cool fighter.
Yeah, there's not because there's already a Goron Zoro.
Yeah, So I was thinking about the champions. Daruk would be too similar to Darunia.
Yeah.
Mipha would probably be too similar to Ruto.
Oh, I hate to say
would
it.
probably be more based on her spear.
I hate to say it because Ashley's watching, but Rivali.
Rivali, yeah, we don't really have an archer character in Hyrule Warriors.
Yeah, so they could add Rivali and
yeah.
What's her name?
Urbosa?
Yeah, they could add Rivali and Urbosa.
Yeah.
And then for the in the same way they're having character swaps for the Breath of the Wild skins.
Oh yeah.
They could have character swaps for Daruk and Mipha.
Yes, instead of Ruto and Darunia.
Yeah.
Yes, that would be really good. Although I do feel like Mipha's fighting style would be very different than Ruto's because she uses the trident, the light scale trident.
Yeah.
And Ruto doesn't use a weapon, but
yeah. So, but they could add in like character like 2 character skins, and then 2 actual characters.
Yes, that's true.
Or they could just add them all 4 in.
So, that's true. Even if they're similar characters, they could change it up to be like different special abilities and stuff like that. Yeah,
maybe
more variety still
is
fine.
Hilda?
Is it Hilda?
Yeah, from Lorule, A Link Between Worlds. She's in it. Okay.
Or no, wait, is she in it? Or is she like a? I don't think so. Actually.
Oh.
Hyrule Warriors. Let me see.
I want. Gaebora.
Gabora,
Zelda's dad.
Zelda's dad. Oh, the headmaster in Skyward Sword, Gabora.
Yeah, Gabora.
Yeah, Hilda is not in.
And then he could turn into Gaebora.
The owl.
Well, that's a weird thing. Like, I think it hints at him being the owl, but then in Ocarina of Time it says the owl is the Sage of Light. What's
Rauru,
his? Yeah, Rauru is the owl. But then Skyward.
I thought it was just a reference.
I thought I read in Hyrule Historia that it says that he is, and then that always made me think that in the same way everyone else is apparently revived or like reincarnated, maybe he is reincarnated as Rauru. Mm-hmm. And then when he turns into the owl, that's why the owl looks so similar to him and the names are so similar. So when he turns into the owl, he takes the name of his past life.
Yeah. That holds up. Now, new stages. If you had to choose a new stage to add, I have a thought.
Okay.
Cool one. In Hyrule Warriors, there's the Lake Hylian level, and then you go into the Water Temple, right?
Yeah.
So you have to like drain the lake, and you go in the Water Temple, and there's some big rooms. There's sort of some puzzles, and it's thematically it's aesthetically, I would say, similar to the Water Temple in Ocarina of Time. Layout-wise, not so much. But wouldn't it be cool to have a Stone Tower level?
Oh yeah.
And as a gimmick, the whole thing turns upside down when you you capture the thing, and then capture one of the outposts. You defeat
like a mini boss.
And then the whole thing turns upside down, and you have to go
the mini boss in Stone Tower Temple was one of my favorites. It was like the Grim Reaper type boss.
Yeah, the Garo Ninja guy.
Yeah, so that would be really cool to see in Hyrule Warriors as well, because he's a pure fighting character. Because he's got the sword and he attacks. So yeah.
Yeah, he's got the 2 swords.
I was gonna say Zora's Domain from Breath of the Wild looks really cool. And there's all the different paths that you could take. So your mic went out. Nope. Nothing.
How about now?
Yep.
Woohoo! There we go.
What happened?
I don't know.
Oh.
I have no idea.
All right. So yeah, Zora's Domain from Breath of the Wild, because it has the different branching paths, and aesthetically it looks good.
Yeah, no, it's very like it's visually appealing. Like the whole place is supposed to be made of luminous stones, so they could
Which
they could
never
even do
existed
something
until
high.
Breath of the Wild.
Yep, but
It's like, oh, it looks
in
like
a
it's
sort
made
of,
out of
like,
ice. Nope.
retroactive sense, it makes me think that the a lot of the Zora structures in Twilight Princess were also luminous stones, just based on how they look.
Termina's Zoras, like, they have the icy look to everything as well, don't they?
Do they? It's very beachy, you know.
Oh, look, it's like Zora's Hall, isn't it?
Oh, and they've got like the huge clamshell thing in the middle, and I'm trying to think of. It's got a. I thought it had a very stony look to it, but
Oh yeah, it is stone.
yeah, but so is luminous stone.
It's just the light
stone
is reflecting off of everything, so
Yeah.
it makes it look like it has that. Is what it is. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wrong,
Cute.
guys, but I think that answers the question. So,
I think so.
what's
That was a good question.
our final question from Le Chat?
You want to pick this one or?
You can.
Okay, let me just browse the final
Yeah.
question.
Remember,
Just browse.
guys, you're supposed to have tagged us to make it easier. The Wilshire
So-
lad says he subscribed just now, so
Woohoo!
thank you. I'm glad this nonsense is what led you to subscribe.
Hopefully.
Oh,
Kayla,
Champion of
who was
Mormon
just-
said Vaddie
Oh.
as a
Vaddie.
character.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
If
And then as his like special attack, he could transform into giant eyeball daddy. Yeah.
no.
It's Kayla Chublima, who was on this podcast earlier.
Oh, did she have a question?
She actually submitted a question.
Mm,
She says,
okay.
if you could have anyone guest on the podcast, literally anyone, who would it be?
See, my go-to answer right now, or like most of the time, would be Greg Miller. But he was the first guest I had. But he's also like the most famous that I've had. So
Think bigger, Jesse. Literally anyone. I want to have, at first I want to say Reggie, but I think it would
Okay.
turn into too much like a
So
business stuff.
what I
with
was
Reggie.
what I was saying
It wouldn't be as fun.
in the messenger
Yeah.
about the potential guests,
Oh yeah, let's
we can't
not
mention them
mention them.
publicly.
Yes, but you know who I'm gonna say is the
No.
Nate Bildorf.
Okay, because I was gonna say no KS
No KS.
initials.
What? Oh yeah, no. Nate Bildorf from Nintendo Treehouse. Him or like Kit Ellis and Krista from Nintendo Minute. Any of those guys would be like really fun. But Nate Bildorf, like if you watch the Nintendo Treehouse stuff with him, like he just seems like a really fun guy who genuinely really enjoys like playing those games
Yeah.
and like he's like genuinely a Zelda fan. Yeah, like my first thought was like if I could pick anyone it'd be like a Nintendo person like Reggie or Bill Trinan or someone. But then I'm thinking like but it would be like a novelty, but they wouldn't be fun to like
Yeah.
talk to for this long, They'd be fun to interview but not like co-host a podcast with. Whereas that's why I think Nate Bildorf, that guy I want to be his friend. I see him play and I'm just like this guy is hilarious. They did a stream where when Breath of the Wild first came out and he caught a horse and they were like the rest of the Nintendo Treehouse people were like interviewing Onuma and he's just playing Breath of the Wild the whole time. He's just having fun playing it, kind of zoning out of the interview. And then he like gets a horse and he brings it to the stable and he names it Not Epona. And Onuma's in the middle of answering a question and he just sees it and he sees Not Epona and he just sees it's like Not Epona and then he just gets it and laughs and the whole time Nate's just having fun playing this playing the game. Or there was the first time we see like the Zonai ruins in the it was pre-release, but it was Nate Bildorf and Bill Trinan and they go and do that shrine challenge.
Oh yeah.
And he
With
just
the
was
Lizalfos.
also Yeah. The first time we saw the Zalfos and a Moblin and everything, and then Bill got killed pretty quickly. But Nate he was actually really good at it as well. So you can tell he's invested in the games too. That he's a fan because he plays them really well and he knows his way around the games. And he's also hilarious. I just think I would love to have him. He seems like a fun guy. So that's my answer.
Yeah.
Jesse, who are we allowed to say that you actually want?
because of the podcast, I've actually been able to have a lot of people that I would have like dreamed of having on. Like, well, not necessarily because of the podcast, because some of this was before, but like Michael Cthulhu, who has the YouTube channel Michael Cthulhu, he makes all the giant swords and weapons from video games. He had a TV show, Big Giant Swords, on the Discovery Channel. I think it had 1 or 2 seasons.
Yep, aptly named.
He was a really cool guest. One of my favorite bands, Escape the Fate. I had the chance to have them on the YouTube channel. Greg Miller somehow was the first guest I ever had, and still, for some reason, remembers who I am when I talk to him. There are... Okay, so I can say this, but there are a few other that I can't say. In the middle of next month, we're going to be having Patricia Somerset, the voice actress of Zelda and Breath of the Wild, as a guest.
We're allowed to say that one?
on the channel. There's some other people that I'm working on that I finally got a response back from Jay.
Right.
But that's just a letter.
Still.
Something.
I know what you mean.
Something is happen. It's all because of Fortnite as well.
Oh.
He's been streaming. He's been streaming Fortnite on his Facebook.
Has he really?
Yeah, he was streaming Fortnite on Facebook, and I got a response through Facebook. And then there's a convention in a couple of months where
You okay?
This was the one that I stopped on earlier. Mario.
Actually,
is what I can say. I can say Mario is going to be at the convention coming up.
There's a couple in the chat that Losing Limo says not Miyamoto, and again, it's like I would love to interview him, but just like have him on the podcast for like a couple hours. I
would say
I would be honored, but I don't think it would be as fun.
I would like an off the record conversation with Miyamoto and Aonuma.
Yes.
And so I could just like open up Hyrule Historia and be like, just point. Where is it?
And and then Champion of Mormon said Charles Martinet is also a really good choice because I feel like he would be a lot of fun to have. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then Shuhei Yoshida, president of Sony's PlayStation Studios, I've seen a lot of interviews with him, and he jokes around a lot. Like, you can ask him about, like, if you ask like Nintendo about a game that's not out yet, they're like, oh, sorry, we can't talk about that. But Shuhei doesn't care. Like, he'll joke around and be like, oh yeah, we just played that last week. And then you're like, well, how far along is the game? Because, it's supposed to release like 2 years from now. They've only been working on it for 6 months. And he's like, it's not a game, but you can play it. I played it. And then you're like, can you tell us? Like, what was it like? What's going on? He's like, oh, I can't say. But he just like rubs it in your face like, oh yeah, I played it. Like, right now they're working on the new Zelda game, and it's probably just like the bare bones basics of what a Zelda game would be. So like you could probably like run around the world as Link and see what the world looks like, but none of the NPCs and side quests and dungeons are programmed into it, so it's probably just like an empty world. And like Miyamoto Aonuma can probably like pick up a controller and run around inside of it and like jump and hit stuff with the sword, but it's not really a game. So like if you ask Nintendo, they would just be like, "Oh, we're working on it." But Miyamoto or Shuhei Yoshida is like, "Yeah, I played it. Yeah, it's very fun. You can't do anything in it, but it's a fun game, or like it's fun to play." Your audio's out, by the way. Again.
Is it still going?
It's good now.
I was just chuckling, so it wasn't, you were missing anything.
But yeah, like
insane.
the way, like on the record, I would like to have him because he jokes around about all of this stuff. Off the record, because I know they would never say it publicly. Mm-hmm. Like, what happened? Like, what's the real story with Zelda Ura? What was the side quests? Like, what was the extra dungeons? Did Link get the yellow tunic, or was that just left over in the game? Tell us what it is. What was the light temple?
Tell us everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they're like, we released it in Master Quest. And you're like, you listen here. You said, like, hold up, like, a big notepad and be like, you said in this interview. You can't see what I'm doing, but I'm pretending to hold up something.
I'll see it in a couple.
There it is. I'm doing it now.
Live stream.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, pointing at the paper, be like, you said in this interview there were extra side quests, extra dungeons, extra weapons. What are those dungeons? What were those side quests?
They're probably like, oh, it's this one that was in this game that came out years later.
It's like,
so,
you know,
don't worry.
It's like you could, honestly, the side quests were probably something simple. Like in Majora's Mask and Twilight Princess, you had to like guide the milk to the bar.
Yeah.
Or what was it in Twilight Princess? You had to get the Zora body to the place.
Oh, the wagon, yeah.
Yeah, so like it was probably something like that where you had to get something from like Zora's domain to Kakariko Village or something. Like
bring someone hot spring water.
Yeah, like honestly, like it's probably something that's simple. The side quests in Zelda Ura that were supposed to be added. But as fans, we're like, no, it was going to be this awesome thing. You were going to be fighting dragons and killing whatever. And then it's like, no, you had to take the milk to this place. They gave you a slingshot upgrade. And you're like, that's it. It's like, yeah, your slingshot, it's blue instead of brown. It's stronger.
Yeah.
It does twice the damage. And then you're like, but you don't really need the slingshot to do twice the damage.
No, you don't really need the slingshot.
Yeah.
After like the first half
boomerang.
of the game. So
after you get the boomerang, you're good. And then they're like, oh, you could throw the boomerang twice as far. And they're just like, why do I need to throw the boomerang twice as far? And then they're like, and that's why we didn't add it in the game.
That is only good in the 2D Zelda games. Increased boomerang range.
Yeah. Like, because I was thinking the hook shot replaces the boomerang when you're an adult to like get stuff from far away. So in the same way you increase the hook shot to the long shot, I imagine the side quests would have doubled the range of the boomerang as well. Or it would have even cooler, making it twice as fast. That way you don't have to wait as long for it to come back.
Yes.
So I imagine the side quests would have been something like that, but Miyamoto would have been like, oh, I can't tell you. It was, I don't know.
Womp womp.
Is this how to pin people? Is pick mine, I guess. Yeah, we can do one more question. Yeah. And then we'll close out.
There's one in,
what's
I'm not
this,
sure
Holly?
If we should, because there's a Discord question in,
hey.
Or not, from one of our Patreon people.
Oh. So I messaged Holly to come on to do the questions with us, and she messaged me back, and I didn't get it. Do you have like 10 more minutes?
Womp. Yeah, that's fine.
Alright. Yo. To join on.
But yes, we do have a Patreon question. We should probably answer it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if it's Patreon.
Yeah. It's Game Over Night of Zelda. I think I was saying Ashita before, but it has an L in it. It's totally a Zelda.
Yeah.
This one I think you'll like, Jesse.
All right.
What boss has the most lore surrounding it to you? I think I know your answer already, but boss with the most lore. So my answer would be Volvagia, actually, because, and I don't think that was what you were gonna pick. I think I picked this one.
Are you calling me?
Hey!
Holy.
She's here.
Oh, there.
Oh, she's listening to the podcast.
I don't think that was what you were gonna pick. I think
All right.
I can hear myself delayed.
Yeah. Can you put on a headset?
Oh my god, what's wrong with you guys?
Oh, you got an awesome shirt on.
Ready?
I'm like, where am I? What's going on?
Yeah, I never got your
Hello.
message on Twitter until you said that in the chat, and then I was like, oh,
Whoops.
it still kind of works out the way it is.
That's weird. Well, yeah, okay. Real quick, like, I'm cooking food, yo. I'll say hello.
All right.
Hello.
So, to answer the question, one of the questions earlier, Hyrule Warriors. Did you play Hyrule Warriors?
Who, me?
Yeah.
I haven't played it for a long time. I think I've only played Hyrule Warriors on whatever original system.
Yeah,
it
Wii
came
U.
out on?
It's
Wii
coming
U,
out
okay.
on the Switch, but what, like, if you could add any character from the entire series to Hyrule Warriors to play as, who would it be?
I don't know.
Yeah, because they've added so many. Like, they have the Bug Girl, who you would never think would be a fighting character, but she is. It's just weird.
Is Majora on there?
No,
I think
Skull Kid is.
Skull Kid?
Yeah.
Skull Kid is?
Skull Kid, but not Majora. But
Jeez, I haven't played that game in so long. I don't know, man. I don't know. Everyone's basically there that I want, right? I'm like looking around my apartment trying to
Yeah.
find Zelda things. I'm like,
no, they literally have like every character that you could think of.
yeah.
Yeah, it was tough to think of someone that wasn't already added to the game via Legends or DLC or
Yeah.
whatever, right?
All right.
What about the snot-nosed kid in Wind
No.
Waker?
That's who we
Not the
said.
Booger Kid.
We said that for someone asked who the worst characters were, and we said him.
We said the Booger Kid.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, yeah, he could have some serious good powers. He could, like,
Alright.
snot on people and stuff.
All right,
Like
well,
his snot around and it's like an open truck.
here's a good question. Michelle Zelda from YouTube, I imagine, asked, which bosses do you think are the worst? So, like, I don't know if she means like the hardest boss or the one you get to that you're just like, oh, this is so boring, it sucks. So, yeah, who do you guys think the worst bosses is?
Ooh, I think it's Scaldera from Skyward Sword. I hate him.
I'm going
I
to
would
go
Say, like, Demise
Calamity
Big-
Ganon.
blob thing from Skyward Sword.
I'm going to
Oh,
say,
the imprisoned guy?
Yeah.
yeah.
The imprisoned, I guess.
Because you have to fight him 3 times in the game.
Yeah, it's stupid, and his toes are, like, big and
His toes.
cute. See, he's not threatening, man. It's just, like...
No. Although it is funny when Garus comes down and starts helping you. Because, like, he's supposed to be the bully
that,
throughout the whole
yeah.
game, and then he's nice. So, I would say Levias in Skyward Sword.
Ooh,
Like,
that's a
that
good
has the
one.
parasite.
I'm finding a theme
and-
here.
And...
Mhm.
who? Calamity
What
Ganon.
about the... Yeah?
I
You
hate
really
fighting the
Calamity
different
Ganon.
versions of Calamity Ganon. Like, because you get to it every single time, and it's just like, it's the same thing, but a little bit different, and it sucks. But who are yours, Daniel?
Yeah, I'm going with Scaldera from Skyward Sword. I don't know what it is about that boss. You're like in a bowling alley practically. You know, it's like
Oh, yeah.
little narrow hill thing, and he charges up, and you have to throw a bomb in his mouth, and then stab his eyeball through his shell thing that makes no sense. And it's really a chore. Like, it's not fun. And I feel bad because Skyward Sword also has my favorite boss fight with his Koloktos, the big statue where you rip his arms off.
Yeah, that was a
beat
cool
him
boss
to death
fight.
with a sword. That's like my favorite boss fight. But then Scaldera is just the worst. He's worse than the big giant worm from the Link to the Past that pushes you off the edge. And that was a pretty annoying boss.
Skyward Sword also has that big monster on the sand ship that looks like she's from Monsters, Inc.
Yes, yeah. That one was kind of silly too. But, like, I liked the first part of that boss fight where he's, like, actually just tearing
the ship apart.
Tantalus, that's what it's called, is it?
Yeah, I think, like Tantalus or Tantalus.
Yeah. But he's, like, tearing the ship apart at first, and, like, that part's really dramatic and very exciting, you know?
Yeah.
But then, you do get to the part where you're fighting him, and you're like, oh, wow, this is not as scary as I thought it would be.
No. It looks very cartoony.
Yeah.
Okay, so another question that we answered earlier that Holly wasn't here for, but I'm going to reword it a little bit because the question was from Superlink, which was, my question is, would you like to see a new game in which we go back to Termina? Perhaps the game would go more into the lore of the fierce deity and the four giants. So we answered that question earlier, so I'm going to change that to, instead of would you like to see the game, I'm going to say, which Link would you like to see visit Termina? So even if it's before the events of Majora's Mask, which if it's before, maybe you can live through the events of Majora being like put in the mask. Like if you go back to Skyward Sword time, maybe you get to see who the fierce deity was before they were sealed. Or if you go to like Twilight Princess Link going back, then it could be what I was explaining earlier with all the people like if you know there is an older character that's like, you remind me of this person who came and saved my grandparents' wedding, because there's the wedding from Angie and Cafe in Majora's Mask. So if it's like their granddaughter or something saying, hey, you remind me of the person who saved my grandparents' wedding, then that's like a huge callback that a lot of fans would love. So you could get stuff like that. Yeah, you could get stuff like that if you had Twilight Princess Link go back to Termina, or you could get you could live through the history and the lore of like fierce deity and Majora's Mask if you get someone like Skyward Sword Link to go there. So if you could pick any of the links to go back to Termina, which would it be? So like Breath of the Wild Link, Twilight Princess, Spirit Track, Wind Waker, A Link to the Past. Which link would you want, Holly?
Greg, I don't know. That's like an intense. That's intense.
Yeah. Because like if you picked Wind Waker Link, then you could go back and like it would be all flooded like Hyrule and Wind Waker. So you could have like a flooded Termina, which would be weird.
I don't want that. There'd be nothing there. I don't know.
Daniel looks like he's concentrating super hard.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's a tough call.
Yeah.
I would probably just say it's a new Link.
A new Link go?
New Link again. Just get a new one.
I would.
I don't know.
I want Twilight Princess Link to go to Termina. That's the one I would pick.
It would be cool because you saved it.
Yeah.
Right. So
and then
now it's like whole another generation, and that'd be cool to see what happens to Termina like
hundreds
of
years
later.
Yeah. And then you could get those callbacks of a character being like, "Hey, someone like you saved my grandmother," or whatever. And then
what would it be like there? Like, what would the harm be? Like, what would be going wrong? What would
what
you
evil?
Saving? Yeah, what evil? What would be going on in Termina that you would need to go there in the first place to like help them out and stuff? You know.
That's a good question.
Yeah, Xant's dead. Ganondorf is sealed.
Yeah, who's there?
Villain.
Was there anyone in
New baddie.
Termina that was bad?
The Happy Mask salesman.
That thief guy, Sakon.
Yeah. There's like, was there anyone in like Icona, like maybe someone who was like a lost descendant of the Icona royal family?
Maybe, yeah.
Who comes back and is like, I'm reclaiming my land. You all should worship me. I am your king now. someone like that, like going all Ganondorf on them.
I'll get it.
Yeah.
He's got Ganondorf.
All right. 2 final questions from the chat. Are there any new questions we can answer? We're only going to keep you here for like 5 minutes, Holly. So
Okay, cool.
we're not going to take too much of your time. So yeah, Daniel, what's our penultimate question?
Patreon question. I think
All
we
right.
gotta take that one.
All right, what is it?
That was, what boss has the most lore surrounding it, in your opinion?
What boss has the most
Yeah.
lore?
So I want to say Volvagia, because he's got legends from the Gorons sort of before, like they talk about the Megaton Hammer being used to beat him before. He was trying to eat Gorons years ago, before Ganondorf brought it back.
Alright, I don't want to say a main boss, because like if you pick Demise or Ganondorf, that's too simple of an answer.
And
So
boss,
I kind of assumed it meant dungeon
no,
boss.
no in-game boss.
But
Because like
with,
one's like who is it? Morpha, and then Morpha from Ocarina of Time, the Water Temple boss, and then Morphle from Twilight Princess.
Or Bongo Bongo.
Yeah, like they don't have any lore at all, like the Water Temple bosses, because they're just like amoebas. Aquatic amoeba is what they called it.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't explain it.
Bongo Bongo's a good choice as well. Definitely a lot of lore there.
Yeah.
But
And then
Volvagia was in Zelda 2 as well, and then
yeah,
in
and then
time, so.
Majora's Mask, like none of its bosses has any lore at all. Like one's just a giant fish, one's a crazy
The
forest warrior,
Yeehaw!
and then sandworms.
Good old
So
sandworms.
yeah, and then like a lot of people like Dark Link, but Dark Link never has any history. It's always like Ganondorf just summoning him, or Link having to face him for whatever reason.
Bonkers. Oh.
Yeah, I would say like Volvagia. Holly said Bonga
Bongo.
Bonga.
Mm-hmm.
Which we had
I was
Axel
sure
on.
you were gonna say Bongo Bongo, but
It didn't pop in my head for some reason.
oh, I thought I knew you.
Who else? Can we think of anyone outside of Ocarina of Time?
No, that's the only game I know.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Okay, Skyward Sword bosses. Was anyone
But, like,
memorable
the
in
bosses
Skyward
before-
Sword?
Yeah, I'll be right back. Let me check my
Alright.
food.
Okay.
Was anyone
The
memorable in
bosses, like-
Skyward Sword?
Yeah. So other than the terrible ones we talked about before, there was like Koloktos, Girahim. I guess we would say probably.
Yeah,
has
but
a lot of,
that's a cop out.
yeah, this kind of
'Cause
But
he's
two
he's a
dungeon
part of
bosses.
the boss. He's 3 dungeon bosses,
bosses.
and then an in-game boss.
Yeah.
King Boblin maybe, but there's no lore. He's just in a lot of the
Big,
game.
big guy. Yeah. Before Ocarina of Time, like all the 2D games, their bosses were just kind of there.
Yeah.
You just walk in the room. There's the boss fight.
All right. What about Twilight
Uh,
Princess?
Oh, Losing Lemo says Twin Rova. Twin Rova's a good one.
Yeah.
Again, that's Ocarina of Time. Twilight Princess bosses are like the Diababa. You've got the Furus, who is actually the Goron patriarch. Got Morphle that you talked about. There's the dragon, Argarok, the dragon. There's the Yeti, who gets transformed into Blizzard.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna say Bonga Bonga or
Or Banana.
Banana. No. Okay. So Bonga Bonga or Volvagia.
Yeah.
Because like
Those-
Wind
those
Waker
two-
has like the giant bird that attacks you,
Oh, the Helmrock King. I love
and then
smashing his face in with a hammer.
like there's not much else. So yeah, we're gonna go with Bonga Bonga or Volvagia. Volvagia.
Yay!
How do you pronounce that, Holly?
Winners.
How do you
How do you
pronounce?
pronounce
Yeah.
That old draggy name.
Like, because the game never says the word, so
They
like
just
a lot of people say Volvagia, Like,
I don't know.
yeah. Nintendo should give a pronunciation for the words. Alright, do we have a final question?
Do we? Actually, do we? Let me see. Anybody in the chat got a question for us?
Yeah, someone.
What is the stream for, says Gavin?
No, I'm not answering that question.
What is the stream
What
for?
is any stream for, really?
It went haywire when Kayla had to leave before the mailbag, so then we had to like do a weird thing with the camera.
Oh.
So that's
we had some technical.
yeah, because like the way we figured it out after like 45 minutes of testing, but if the way you see it now, the way it would have been is Daniel's would have been covering the entire screen with mine like in the corner because Skype is stupid on my computer and it doesn't put them side by side. So we needed a third person so it would split up the cameras, which is why I'm always desperate to find a third person. So like I messaged you and Axel, who we had on last week. He didn't reply, and then like CC and Miss Click, but they were busy. And then you replied, but like I didn't see yours until just a few minutes ago.
Yeah, no, I was like browsing YouTube and I was like, oh, they're still live? What is going on here?
Yeah.
So that's why.
So do Zelda theories and questions and stuff nearly finished now.
Yeah.
So
is Bongo Bongo the leader of the Sheikahs who went against the royal family during the Civil War?
That's what I was just reading. It is maybe.
Yeah.
We want to say yes, but we can't officially say yes because it's not confirmed. Nintendo doesn't tell us things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I know a good way to end the podcast.
Okay.
All right.
Is it bingo? Podcast bingo?
Everybody,
next time we have a podcast, draft up a game of podcast bingo.
Yeah. All right. So this is how we're going to end it. We're each going to list 3 new features that haven't been in any of the previous games that you would like to see in Breath of the Wild. Or not Breath of the Wild, but the next Zelda game.
New game.
That have not been in the previous game?
Yeah, so like...
What, Jeff? Why are you making this so hard, man?
Okay, fine.
Something.
Just something that would be a new feature that wasn't in Breath of the Wild.
Okay, good. One. Thank you. Jesus.
So like swimming underwater could be an easy feature because Breath of the Wild, for some reason, you have the Zora tunic, but there's no swimming underwater. Why?
Why?
Yeah. It's like Wind Waker.
In the chat
You
said
can't...
the save button, and I don't know if they played a Zelda game before, but Zelda practically invented the save button.
Yeah.
LOL.
Alright.
I'm tired.
So, we are going to be listing 3 things that each of us want to see in the next Zelda game. 3 new features that were not in Breath of the Wild. We have Daniel, our co-host as usual, and Holly Wolf. So, starting with you, Holly, since you are our guest, we'll each do 1 new feature, go around, and then we will end the podcast. It's probably the longest one we've had.
This might be. We've been going since like
Dancing?
11.
LOL.
A new feature. It could be something from Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, any of the games.
Oh, so like a new so it's not technically a new feature.
It would be new to...
Possibly.
Like, if you were adding it to Breath of the Wild, it would be a new feature to Breath of the Wild. So something...
You know what I mean?
Like, a new or returning feature... Just a new or returning feature that was not in Breath of the Wild.
New or returning feature. They should make a Breath of the Wild expansion pack where you get to rebuild Hyrule. So it's like, you know, you can make towns.
Yeah. Like a...
You could be a building simulator for
Sim City.
Dragon Quest Builders, but in Zelda?
Yeah, or like Sim City, but with Hyrule.
There was a Final Fantasy game. It was like My Little King or something. I don't know. I played it all the time, man. And you just built your own city, and then you got all the little knights and heroes to go out and fight things, but then you would like build houses and stuff. I don't know. It was a good time. I love Harvest Moon and like stuff. I want to build shit.
Yeah. Did you play Dragon
RPG
Quest Builders?
Like
No. Should
No.
I play it?
Probably. It's basically
sounds like you'd like it.
All right.
it's like
all right.
if they combined Zelda with Minecraft is what it
All right,
is.
cool.
Well, there's
Um,
like objectives.
Yeah.
Unlike Minecraft, where
Yeah.
there's not really
Yeah.
any
So-
objectives.
Yeah, so
As long
like
as it's not
imagine
actually
Minecraft but without the like
But better?
square blocky
Yeah,
graphics.
but not really Minecraft.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
But you're still
Yes.
building stuff and everything.
All right, cool. I want
Alright.
a Hyrule building.
Yeah,
simulator.
Hyrule Builders.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Daniel, what new
Oh,
feature
boy.
do you want?
Uh,
All right. While you're thinking.
more time travel.
Oh, more. Yes.
More.
I love the time travel. Would it be?
I think we talked about that before.
Would it be
yeah.
like time travel like Majora's Mask, where you're just going a few days, or would it be like Ocarina of Time, where you're going like 7 years, or Skyward Sword, where you go 100 years?
Not Skyward Sword, because really it's not consequential to the gameplay in Skyward Sword.
Yeah.
The thing with Majora's Mask is that it would be kind of an imitation if we went with that style of time travel. So I maybe a return to form similar to Ocarina of Times, where it's almost like a dual world system, but
Yeah.
because it's time travel, you can do something in the one, and it actually makes sense that it would affect the future.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
I would
That would
say the 7-day cycle that Majora's Mask was meant to be, and then you could just keep redoing
Yeah.
those 7 days again. But like, I would honestly be happy with any. What if it was 7 days? Because you get to keep reliving those over and over. Whereas Ocarina of Time, nothing really changes throughout those.
Right.
Like things change between the 7 years, but other than that, there's not like a schedule people are on. But I'm going to be simple and say underwater swimming and discovery. It was like we had Wind Waker HD, which did not, you can't swim underwater in Wind Waker HD, and then we had Breath of the Wild. So it's like those are two games where you couldn't swim underwater, and it's like you even get the Zora tunic. I thought when you get the Zora tunic, you're able to swim under the water. No, like you can use magic to pick stuff up from under the water, but you can't swim under the water. Do you know how many things I've dropped under the water that I couldn't get back?
Lol.
too many.
And
Oh,
there's no
oh.
hook shot to get them.
Oh, there's no hook shot.
Yeah.
That's true.
Oh, I think that's the next thing I
I-
had.
I think I've thought of a better answer than the one I gave.
Well, you can give it for your number 2. Holly, what is your number 2?
Okay.
I can't. Guys, I gotta eat my food, man.
All right. All right.
You're not obligated to stay for this.
Yeah.
I only have one. Okay.
Okay.
That's all I got in me is one.
All right. Just give your 1, and then you can hang up.
She just did.
I already did. I
Oh.
already gave you my one.
Oh, well, give another one really quick, and then say bye.
She's not gonna keep being our friend if we do this.
Hey, more holes in the ground.
Yeah.
Grottos.
Oh, the grottos. Yeah,
I
yeah,
wanna
yeah.
go down-
Grottos.
I want to go down some grottos.
All right. All right. Thank you, Holly, for joining us very last minute while you were cooking.
Get out of here.
Sorry, I did not get your message sooner to be on.
LOL. It's fine. I gotta make sure my food doesn't burn.
And you have a cool shirt, by the way.
Thanks. It's from Cece.
Yeah. She'll be super
Yeah.
happy to see that.
I know. It's like I wear it while I bum around the house and stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Bye, Holly.
Bye.
Oh, okay.
All right, Daniel. What is your second thing you would add?
Companions, like a companion character that's useful. So imagine, unlike Midna, who's just in your shadow, or Navi, who floats around you, right?
Mm-hmm.
By Fofum, who is your sword. You got a companion character that also fights and also will like follow you, but like will help in situations, or there's puzzles where maybe you have to switch which character you're playing as for that puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like the where you control Cafe briefly in that Andrew Cafe side quest in Majora's Mask.
Yeah.
But like a companion character that would be really useful.
Oh,
would
you
be
can
awesome.
Phantom Hourglass. You can control Zelda.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's the
yeah, that's
knights.
true.
I think there's one
Like
where you
that.
can control Goron
Yes.
and Phantom Hourglass or Spirit Tracks.
Spirit tracks to control the phantoms. The Phantom Hourglass, there is the Goron. Goron.
Yeah.
But when they were talking about the champions and they first showed them off in Breath of the Wild, my thought was, are these going to be like companion characters? Because they talk about, Onuma talked about them helping Link.
Yeah, he
so
called
it's
them
not in the way you
companion
expected.
characters.
Yeah, and so I thought that would be so cool.
Yeah.
You assemble your
They
little
made
team,
such
and
a big
it don't
point
take
about
one at a
that.
time.
Like, they're going to help you in ways, unexpected or whatever. Like, they're going to be different
Yeah.
than normal characters. And it's like, no, they weren't.
They were just basically
They were
abilities.
there and gave you something after you completed a task. That's what
Yeah.
side quest NPCs do.
So imagine after beating Divine Beast Valverdania, you
Yeah.
finish it, and Daruk is freed, and then he will follow you, and then he'll help you fight enemies and stuff like that, and he'll use his weapons. Maybe his weapons break too, and you have to item manage the two of
Yeah,
you.
go back to the original Zelda 3
And-
that we talked about in the one video.
Yeah.
Where Miyamoto
So-
wanted it to be a 3-party system.
Yeah. Now that would be cool. Link's still your main character, though.
Yeah.
Still probably your
It could be
strongest,
like-
but it would...
Did you play Final Fantasy X?
No.
Where Titus or Titus is your main character, but then you have the party characters that you can swap out beside you. So, he's the one the story focuses on, but then you have your magic user, you have your warrior that's there to help you out, and then you're, the main character. So, yeah, it could be, like you said, in a more active version of Midna.
Yes.
Because Midna was the one I feel that helped you out the most.
Yeah, I would agree.
Navi
But
just gave you information and
Yeah.
hints.
same with Vi.
Yeah, told you your battery was going low.
Yep.
See, the bad thing about Skyward Sword, they would have to turn that off in Skyward Sword because your battery could go low from the Switch. Your battery could go low from the left Joy-Con. Your battery could go low from the right Joy-Con. Your battery could go low from your
They
Pro
should do-
controller.
The Wind Waker HD approach, where just a little icon shows up in the corner of the screen.
Yeah, or instead of a beep sound or a flashing, have the sound that Fi makes when she comes out. That's the digital robot sound. The digital version of Navi when Navi comes out. Have the Switch
Yeah.
make that sound. Instead of something flashing on the screen that's annoying, saying the battery's down, just have it make that sound, and then you're like, oh, battery's going
Yeah,
low.
but not pulsing constantly when your hearts are low.
Yeah, or have if a battery in one of the Joy-Cons is going low, maybe it slightly vibrates for that one Joy-Con.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if you have your Switch in the tablet mode, whatever it's called, where it's just on the kickstand and then you're playing with the two
Yeah.
Joy-Cons,
Tabletop.
you have
Oh,
three ways that Fi could be Master, your batteries are going to die.
I don't think they need Vi at all to do it though, because I think there's already a built-in in the console battery indicator.
Yeah, but in
for the
Skyward
Joy-Cons
Sword,
as
she
well.
would still...
No, but I don't want her to.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Nobody wanted her to tell you that for the Wii, but she would still do it. Thankfully, she never said the nunchuck was going dead because there was no nunchuck battery.
True, yeah.
So, you just had the one controller to worry about, but on the Switch, there's, two separate batteries, and then the battery in the... It's complicated, Daniel.
It is. Oh, it's messed up.
Call Miyamoto. Tell him, lesson 5.
Hey, just ease up a bit.
Yeah, alright. What do I want? I want underwater swimming, and I want flying loft wings. I always want flying. I want to fly over Hyrule.
Yes.
I want to jump on Rivali and just... No, who's the other one? Who's his son? No, was it his son? Who was the nice loft wing?
What?
The nice... I'm stupid.
The nice Rito?
Yeah, the nice Rito. Sorry.
In Breath of the Wild?
Yeah. It's was there a nice Rito?
None of them.
No, give me...
No, I'm kidding.
I want
There's-
Cass to fly on.
Cass, yeah.
I want to fly on the Fruit Loops Cass.
Yes, Cass. Cass the Toucan Man.
Yeah. and then he can like sing me songs while we're flying. It's like it would be like Aladdin when he's like, I can show you the world.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, except it's Cass singing to you.
Yeah. Can he fly with that instrument though? Or do you have to put it
Axel,
down?
Jesse,
You're
you're drunk.
drunk.
Axel,
Oh my goodness.
I invited you on the mailbag, but you never answered. So you could be giving your questions. Okay, so final thing, Daniel, what do you want?
Okay. What are we adding into Breath of the Wild? Or not Breath of the Wild?
Okay,
Sequel.
so far we have underwater, swimming,
Underwater.
aloft wings. We have what did Holly say?
Time travel.
Time travel.
Oh, I said time travel. What did Holly say again? Oh. Someone in the chat, quick, refresh our memory.
Yeah.
Party companion, useful companions, I should say, was my other
Yeah.
one.
What did Holly say?
Oh no!
It's like we didn't even have her on here. Link destroyed again. What?
That's not what she said. Uh-oh. I hope she's not still watching
Seriously?
this.
Alright.
She said,
I have
"We
this.
lost it. Uh-oh.
Any
She
of
did
the
say something good,
previous
too.
games. Feature. It could be something from...
No.
Make
Oh,
towels.
grottos. She
Yeah.
Thank you, RPG.
Grottos.
Grottos. And building.
Yeah, so building and
What's in the
grottos.
ground.
Building-
That's right.
Okay, so building, grottos, loft wings, companions, underwater swimming, time travel
Mm-hmm.
is what we have. What's your last?
Really cool items. Like Breath of the Wild's abilities and the runes were neat, but I really like finding really unique dungeon items like the whip, you know, the spinner, the ball and chain,
Hook shot.
the hook shot. Really, those are really great dungeon items. The runes were good and neat, but you had 4 runes plus a camera.
Yeah, that was the
And that
thing.
was-
Like, Al Numa in the interview was like, he said something that the game didn't work the way they wanted it if you discovered the new abilities or whatever inside the dungeons.
Yeah.
And my answer to
But
that is like,
Gotta do
okay, well,
champion abilities.
give us all of those ability, like all of the runes at the same time, the way you do in the game now, but then give us other items inside the Divine Beasts or the dungeons.
Yes. See, my thought was, if they were to add, without adding new items, if they were to have an item in the Divine Beast, would be the champion's weapons that you get after the Divine Beast anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But they're unbreakable.
Yeah, have them not
You know?
break. Instead of rebuilding them over and over, just... Because it's like...
Yeah.
The bow is special because it's the bow that he used. The staff that Mifa gives you is special because it's the staff that Mifa has.
Yeah, but if you break it and,
And
they
then
just build you a new one, it's not
yeah,
the same
it's
staff
a
that you
lookalike.
used.
Like that's what
Yeah.
confused me in the Zora quest, where it's like you had to find the replica
It's-
of
yeah.
the staff, and it's like, what? Why do I need the replica? But the real one is not the real one. Like it confused
But if
me.
you break the real one and rebuild it, wouldn't it be also the replica one?
Yeah. So I want masks. Breath of the Wild had masks, but I want masks to have the like. So in Breath of the Wild, you had a bunch of masks. Ocarina, but they were akin to the masks in Ocarina of Time, where like you could wear them. Some of them had weird features, like you could talk to the gossip stones or whatever, but they didn't really have a real purpose, and you had no connection to them. Like the 4 masks in Ocarina of Time, you kind of have a connection with them because they're part of the side quests, but in Breath of the Wild, you really have a connection to the masks because some of them have a lot of emotion and stuff behind them, like the sun's mask or the couple's mask, stuff like that. Like it has like emotion attached to it. In Breath of the Wild, it's just like, oh, it's a Korok mask.
Yeah.
You can put it on Find a Korok. There's no attachment to it.
Attached to it because it has a car space.
Yeah.
But
So
that's it.
like instead of just like here's a side, like literally the side quests to get the masks in Breath of the Wild was just read the diary, go to the spot. That's it.
Right.
It's not attached to any of the characters. They're just like lazily put in there. Not lazily, because they could have just given them to you. So like they at least attempted to do a side quests, but like give masks and items real side quests, and like the side quest where you had to find Zelda's horse, like the white horse. Give a side quest like that to where someone's like, I lost this mask, and then you go through all the trouble to get it for him, and then he's like, thank you for getting this, it means so much to me, for helping me, you can have it.
Yeah, like the Thunder Helm
Yeah.
in Breath of the Wild.
Like, give all of the masks side quests like that, and have them tied into the side quests like Majora's Mask. Just give me Majora's Mask too. Like, that game had time travel, the game had the side quests, you could swim underwater, you could get the weapons and items in the different places, you could have the grottos in the ground, you could have... you don't have the companion character. That is one thing you don't have. You just have, like, Navi 2.0.
Yeah.
Discount Navi.
Discount now. Oh my goodness.
Don't hurt me.
No.
No, it's who like
Tattle or
no, someone like our Retro and like a couple of other people in the Discord, they call
Discount McIntyre?
Yeah, like Con Nugget or whatever his username is, they call him like Discount McIntyre or New McIntyre. So it's like Discount Navi. Oh, and then Avrith in the thing, like there's a Dragon Ball Z character and he called them like Discount Agaroth or whatever the name was, because it was essentially like the same bad guy just reused. So he was like, it's Discount. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Discount Navi is Tattle. But I don't know.
I liked her better than Navi though, because she has an arc. So
you like her better than Navi?
Don't hate me.
It's impossible. All right, Daniel, we've reached the end of the podcast. Thank you for coming on. Where can people follow you? Everyone go to @CaptBurgerson.
Burgerson.
CaptBurgerToeatPoop.
Yes.
Is
not how you spell it. If you're watching the edited version, it's in the corner, probably.
It is Capt. I love to eat poop. Is what I spelled out.
That's me.
No.
Yeah.
Follow him on the sheets of London. All right, and I am Game Over Jesse. We have been on the podcast way too long. Thank you to the 12 people here that have stayed the entire time.
Yes.
Axel came in and left like 3 different times.
Yeah.
I feel RPG, Gibbs, some of these other people, Losing Limo, have been in there for the majority of the podcast. Thank you to Kayla, who came for like the first half. Thank you.
The 10 minutes.
Thank you to Holly for coming in. Sorry I didn't see your message to join at the beginning of the mailbag. That would have helped us out a lot, because we wouldn't have had to redo all of the stuff. And already did. Follow me back so I look more popular.
Yes.
Alright. Will do, Losing Limo. Yeah, this has been the Hylian Gamescast episode 26. Thank you everybody for watching.
Bye everybody.
Bye.